Gather round me, children, I'll tell you the news. Don't worry about the names or dates, you already know it's true. The doctor hates your baby, the prime minister's a ghost, and all them folks are sailing here 'cause they're in love with boats. Superfoods can save us from all our evil sin. JFK and Elvis own a bar in Wisconsin. And vaccinations were created by the CIA to steal votes from Bernie Sanders and turn your babies gay. So click the link you think you like and get tooled for a fight against those lefty fascist communists who are leaning too far right.
Welcome to Not Another Fake Newscast. I'm Paul.
And I am Jerry. We are going to be having a look at 2017 today. We're going to be going over the year of fake news.
2017, the year that fake news happened. 2016, Trump said fake news. 2017, Trump created fake news.
Trump basically created this podcast. Fake news.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're here basically to have a kind of recap of all of the stories that we looked at last year and see, you know, what's progressed and where they're all sitting right now.
Yeah, just a little to touch base before we go into an exciting schedule that we've got looking ahead for the next year. We thought we'd just kind of see if anything has changed, see what's happened, see if there's anything new to talk about.
It's a State of the Union address type thing. It's a state of play. We're seeing where we're at.
It's like the Queen's speech.
Yeah, except, you know...
We pay tax.
Yeah, and you're not our subjects.
Kinda.
Did you see the RTE? It's like the equivalent of the Radio Times supplement that they get for, you know, what's on the TV over Christmas and stuff. The listing for the Queen's speech on Christmas Day was absolutely brilliant. It just said the English monarch lectures her subjects.
Well, I suppose it's accurate. Like sitting there with a fucking sapphire-laden diamond crown on.
It's almost as if the good people of Ireland we're being slightly sarcastic towards the UK's head of state, which I can't imagine.
No, I mean, like, they've always been in such good terms with them, so...
Yeah, it seems strange. Anyway, I'm sure it was some kind of mistake. Moving swiftly on, we are Not Another Fake Newscast, and because of that, you can find us at www.notanotherfakenewscast.com.
Yep, we're on at PGMcast on Twitter, at PGMcast on Facebook.
And we're also at PGMcast at Patreon, which is where you can donate some money and get some little extras, get access to Discord, etc. Would like to say welcome and thank you to our latest Patreon, who is Albo Smith, cool dude from Edinburgh, I believe, who's backing us up now. So thanks very much for that, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd actually just like to take that a little bit further. Since this is a roundup of 2017, I'd like to say a big thank you to all our patrons. Like, you have really made a massive difference to be able to do things like have new equipment and being able to just kind of cover the costs, because the one thing that people generally don't talk about is running a podcast costs money. Like, there's the website, there's the hosting, there's all the other bits, and this isn't like a tiny violin scenario, do you know what I mean? We chose to do this, but it does make a difference, and we do really appreciate our patrons. We're going to tweak the patron for the kind of perks and stuff you get for all the different scenarios. We're going to do that over the next couple of months, just to make kind of show our patrons how much they mean to us, and on top of that, just kind of be a bit more enticing to new people to come and see us. So yeah, that's one of the things that's on the plan. We also would like to do a shout out to a podcast who's a good friend of ours, a podcast that you should really listen to.
Yeah, everybody out there should listen to Scapegoat. It's a fantastically well researched and interesting listen, and Luke over in Northern Ireland is putting together a really excellent podcast there. So his latest episode was about Terminal, a guy who was basically stuck inside an airport terminal for an extended period of time, and all the myths and stuff that have grown up round about this particular chap. There was a Hollywood movie made about it, but yeah, it's Scapegoat. He's covered.
Love Actually. Is it Love Actually?
No, that's not the film. He's covered different subjects, like, you know, why do carrots help you see better in the dark. He's covered Coca-Cola. He's covered a whole bunch of different.
The landowner by the British monarchy. He's covered
the toxic woman.
Yeah, it's really interesting. To be honest, at some point we're probably going to grab him and get him onto an episode in here because he knows how to do some research.
I'm going to grab him. I'm going to touch him.
That as well. And then we'll get him on an episode after that, you know, when he's happy.
After he's had counselling. Yeah, so that's the plan.
The other shout out is to Beer 52. Beer 52 have sent us beer throughout the year. And that rhymes. You know that rhymes. No, but they've sent us beer, and they've also offered our fans a great deal for a good few months now, where you can go to beer52.com/fake news. You can use the code fake news and you can get free beer. When all those words sound great.
Yeah, you'll get your first box of beer from them for free, and I can highly recommend it. This month, they have been at an island off of Scotland with 3 breweries. Partisan was one of them, I can't remember the other 2, but they basically made exclusive beers for their 4-year anniversary, and if you sign up this month, then you'll get a box of those beers.
Free exclusive beer? That's the best kind of beer?
It's the best kind of beer. You also get a cool magazine called Ferment, which is all about craft beer. Not for men. No, that's why I specifically... Did you not hear me really pronounce the T?
That's why I mentioned it. I'm not going to lie, I did.
And you get a little snack as well, like a little bag of corn or some shit.
He sold that well.
So anyway, we're going to start off at the beginning. It's been an amazing year, by the way. What I thank you so much, everybody who's listened, everybody who's written reviews for us on iTunes and stuff like that. It's been a real roller coaster. We played our first live show in Dublin. We went on a whole camping trip with those conspiracy guys and the disaster artists. We've
made some friends and we've done some mad shit.
Lost some as well.
Yeah, stuff that we didn't really think was ever going to happen at all, let alone by 9 episodes in. Do you know what I mean? We've certainly exceeded the expectations that we had for the show.
Yeah, we got a little review in The Guardian, and we had about 30,000 downloads in 2017. So
yeah, I mean, we done quite well.
We were happy. We were happy with our progress, but we want even more this year.
2018 will be an even bigger year of fake news and shit like that.
But going back to where we started then, Paul, last year, our first episode proper, which was kind of released to the project, was all about immigration.
It was indeed. So we were discussing a few different things. We were discussing the way immigration is viewed in the media in the UK. I would kind of hope you've all listened to it by now. I mean, like, more people have listened to that episode in the grand scheme of things than most of the other episodes. So I kind of hope that everybody's listening to it at the moment. So one of the things that we discussed was the numbers, and this actually covers our Brexit episode as well. So we were discussing the numbers of non-EU and EU immigrants that were coming into the UK, and we were discussing how the general consensus was the reason we were getting so many immigrants in the UK, and I'm air quoting when I say so many, but but the reason we were getting so many immigrants...
You just did the sexiest air quote dance I've ever seen in my life.
No idea. It's so fucking don't know where I am now. No, so we were...
I've only seen 2, to be fair.
2 sexy air quote dances?
No, 2 air quote dances at all.
Right.
Yours happened to be the sexiest, but the first one was done by somebody who was paraplegic and on lots of drugs.
Right, cool. It's not sexy. Well, I know your problem, Gerard.
Prejudice, that's my problem.
So anyway, yeah, the idea is that because we are part of the EU, we get tons and tons and tons of immigrants coming into the UK. And one of the things that Brexit will do is give the UK more control of its borders and prevent the amount of people that come to the UK from the EU come in.
We're going to take the power back. I believe that's the song that UKIP used to trail that.
Yes, and I also believe...
Zach De La Rocha was raging.
Raging against the machine. The thing that we discovered when we done the episode, though, was that if you actually look at the numbers, more people are coming in from out with the EU than from the EU. So the UK government could do is prevent those people coming in, regardless of whether we're part of the EU or not.
Yeah, if that is ideologically or policy wise what they choose to do,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the important thing to realise is that when you look at the numbers, the idea that immigration can be quashed by us leaving the EU is a bit of a myth, because the majority of our migrants come from non-EU countries. So in theory at the moment we have the power to prevent them from coming if we choose to do that. And that what we see, if we look at the statistics since our episode, which was last March, so about 10 months ago, there have been a couple of summary reports from the Office for National Statistics, and the most recent one showed, I mean, migration is down quite significantly again, and 3/4 of the decrease in net migration is accounted for by EU citizens. So we're down.
So they were right. So the amount of people that are coming in here to the EU is now down
From the EU.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like the amount of EU citizens that are coming into the UK has reduced since Brexit.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are somebody who voted Brexit in the hope that that would happen, then you've been justified.
So does that mean that we have less people out with the EU who arguably, now I'm not saying this is the case, but arguably are the people who are deemed the less desirable by the people with the mindset that they don't want immigrants coming in? I mean, generally speaking, as a rule, someone who talks about they want less immigrants coming here aren't really talking about French people coming over here and taking jobs in hospitals. They're more talking about people from Africa, people from the Middle East, people that they are inherently racist towards. Like,
well, I couldn't possibly seek to guess why people don't want people to come here, but I think there's been a lot of projections, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts put out there with regards Islam. It was definitely a big one. What we can see is that there has been a decrease in both EU nationals and non-EU nationals coming into the UK since Brexit. And what we can also see is that we had 230,000 EU citizens, which was down 54,000 coming in the last quarter, and non-EU citizens was only down 28,000, and there was 263,000 in total. So there's definitely more non-EU citizens coming to the UK than EU citizens, but both of them are falling.
I mean, 28,000 is absolutely fuck all in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but I mean, 263,000 plus 230,000, that's not net, that's the total amount of immigrants. When you take it net, it means that for EU citizens, there was plus 107,000 in the last quarter.
So it's went up.
There's been more people, there's been more EU citizens come to the country than left, yeah. So it's been a net migration of 107,000 in the last quarter.
Right, so it's not actually really working at all then.
Well, that's less people though by 82,000. That's less EU citizens than the previous quarter.
Yeah, than the previous.
So,
but not less than. But we knew that. I mean, there's a couple of articles that essentially suggest that people don't want to come to the UK at the present moment from the EU because there's no future for them. Essentially, why would you want to come to the UK at the moment from, say, Germany or Austria or Switzerland or Italy when you know there's a high probability, as things stand right now, that you're going to have to leave in like essentially a year's time? I mean, a year and 3 months' time or thereabouts.
Yeah, but if we're to say, well, we know for a fact that is statistically significant amount, and if it continues to decrease at the same rate, then by the next quarter, we'd only be looking at about 20,000 net.
And that's good.
Well, it depends on your point of view, I suppose. But regardless of whether you consider it to be good or not, it's a fact.
But again, it's not really, in the grand scheme of things, impacting the non-EU citizens.
No, they're there's still significant amounts of non-EU citizens coming. Now, you could argue that we need, not like our NHS, the vast majority of it's made up of non-EU citizens.
See, me and Jerry are always going to have a problem when we discuss this because we are Scottish, as you're aware. Right? Like, but Scotland has essentially there's more old people in Scotland than there is young people in Scotland. I mean, we need immigration. It could be immigration from England and Ireland, or it could be immigration from Africa, but we need immigration because we need younger people here, because essentially we have to be able to do things like run the fucking hospitals and run the trains and run the fucking road systems and all the other things that we need to put young people in, and we have a disparity there, whereas in England it's not quite the same. So it is very different in opinion.
Yeah, well, essentially our demographical issues are completely different to England's. Like as you rightly said, we need more young people. We need more people who are going to have kids in the UK making babies.
In Scotland?
Yeah, in Scotland, that are going to pay for the pensions of the ever increasing age of the population.
It's weird. It's almost as if you could argue that
for Scottish independence,
that Scotland and England have very different needs, desires and wants, and possibly shouldn't be ruled by one central government somewhere in central London.
True, but then you could also argue that devolution's the perfect solution to deal with that.
Well, you could argue it.
I'm not going to.
No, I give it wrong. I'm not going to lie to it.
But anyway, so that's where immigration is at the moment. It is on the decrease. Whether or not you consider that to be a bad or a good thing is entirely up to yourself. However, we were both surprised in the episode to discover that the predictions that had been made by Lord Green of Deddington's organisation, which had predicted in 2002 that there would be a 2 million net increase of migrants into the UK over the next 10 years, turned out to be almost exactly correct. So
I've actually entirely dropped the ball here, because what I should have done from coming into this episode, and I didn't really think about it, was see what old Deddington's saying now regarding the current scenario and where they predict we're going to be in a year or two.
Well, what I did see today was that productivity is at a 6-year high in the UK. So as much as we're getting a lot of doom and gloom in the newspapers, it would appear that in terms of industry and in terms of output, we're actually, the economy is actually in quite a good place right now.
I mean, I also seen that there was talk of the pound is getting stronger, but it did also drop like 20%. So getting stronger,
it's relative.
Yeah, it's getting back up to where it was before, and it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So it's not strong. It's just getting less shit than it was.
Yeah, in the immediate aftermath of Brexit, it went majorly downhill.
Curiously, when did the last Tory government come in before Theresa May?
2010.
So that was just before the dip.
Well, the major dip happened the day after fucking Brexit. Like it dropped off a fucking cliff.
Sorry, I don't mean the pound. I mean the growth, the business growth that you were discussing.
All right. Well, yeah.
So it happened under Cameron.
If you look at it as a 6-year high, it means that it's the best it's been since 2012. Yeah.
Cool. That's just
Just pointing it out.
I'm just saying that.
Just noticing stuff.
Just noticing that under the Tories it dipped.
It also fucking majorly dipped in 2008 when Labour were in power.
That was Gordon Brown. No, I mean we don't count that as Labour being in
Gordon
power.
Brown, texture like sun. That was his campaign song, I think.
Did you say texture like sun?
I don't know. Is that not what the words are? To Golden Brown.
I'm not sure that's even the words. I would have to check, but it's definitely Gordon Brown texture like sun is no something that it's not a good selling point.
You've got 2 eyes, he's only got 1.
That's fact. Which means he had no depth perception, so he couldn't see the fucking bubble
Couldn't see
coming.
the crash coming.
Yes. So glad that joke got. We're now mocking a disabled guy.
We should have been his campaign managers. We couldn't have done a worse job than they did.
I met him while he was the Prime Minister.
I met him when he was the Chancellor.
I met him when he was Prime Minister, fuck you. So, and then, I mean, that's pretty much, in the grand scheme of things, immigration in America, just obviously touching that as well, as shit get fucking crazy and people were banned from all over.
Oh yeah, but the travel bans have now been legally ratified, right?
Yeah, they have.
That's great.
It's it's a thing.
I mean, it's not as if America is a country that was built on the idea of immigration and the land of the free and the American dream or anything like that.
No, I mean, I can imagine there's a lot of First Nation people that absolutely agree they don't want to have immigrants in the country either.
I imagine the Statue of Liberty is delighted about all of this.
Aye, absolutely. It was built by a Frenchman.
Liberty,
it was meant to be sold.
Fraternity, equality.
It was meant to be sold to Egypt, and the original statue wore a hijab. I'm not even making this up.
What?
So when the Statue of Liberty was designed, it was designed and it was going to be getting sold to Egypt, but then Egypt couldn't afford to buy it. So and then it got repurposed to be sold to America.
I thought it was gifted to America.
Well, it wasn't, because the problem is, see the pedestal that it stands on, they had to buy it, right? So America had to. So
It sounds like an absolute con job.
Right. So
the statue's free, guys. The statue's free. Gonna need something to put it on, though, right?
That's exactly what happened. They had to sell bonds to the Americans. All had to buy bonds so they could raise enough money to be able to build
like
the pedestal.
Sean Connery and Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, there was only like 5 or 6 of them, and they just stood there.
But they don't go cheap, those boys.
For the first 2 years, they just held up the Statue of Liberty, like they just stood underneath it. But this actually happened.
Timothy Dalton's I was only in a couple of films, man.
I would love to be taking credit for this, but it was actually even on QI. That's how I know this is the thing. Like I seen it in an episode, which is essentially it was essentially the Statue of Liberty. Like, so you know how she's like in sandals and shit. It's because she was like
an Arab.
Aye, she was a street woman.
Oh, I'm surprised she stopped being travel banned.
Aye, she's not allowed into the country. That's why she stands just outside.
Just on Ellis Island,
just outside in New York.
You stay over. Yeah, you stay over there. That was I don't know.
He's lost.
That was a Canadian guy who also can't get in.
He was a tourist just visiting the statue.
Stay over there, eh?
There's also some other story to do with the fact that it was going to be a lighthouse and there was going to be a light in it, but then some scenario where it isn't now. I can't. That part it gets a bit hazy because I was more concerned with the idea that it was going to be like a big Persian woman standing, and it's now it's now like not a Persian woman, but still is.
I think that someone should start a campaign to weave an enormous hijab and get up there one night and just wrap it around the Statue of Liberty.
Spiky, don't it? She's got a spiky crown now.
They because the alt-right would absolutely lose the fucking shit. You fucking leftist Islamist lovers.
Yeah, fucking snowflakes.
Yeah, we should do that just for shits and giggles.
Also, there's discussion that the face. Don't know why we're still talking about the Statue of Liberty, and I don't know why I know these things, but there was discussion that the face is actually modelled on either his mum or his brother, which makes me think. Mum? Your man who designed it, the boy who did it, Stevie Eiffel.
I thought you meant...
I was going to say Stevie Eiffel.
Stevie Eiffel.
I'm relatively confident that's not his name. But which either means that he's got quite a stern-faced mother or quite a sexy brother. Just so,
or both.
Or both, or both. So anyway, there's some Statue of Liberty stories. Just
cool. I don't remember our Statue of Liberty episode, but it's all good. So after immigration, we moved on to talking about a bit of Trumpness, didn't we? Trump and Russia. Actually.
Trump and Russia and Syria.
We got in on Trump and Russia at the ground floor pretty fucking early doors.
Which was lucky because it turns out the top floor of Trump Tower was on fire.
Burning down.
So that also dates this episode.
Yeah. Well, that just happened today, so we're wondering if his tax returns were in there or if there was some sort of like
Russian memorabilia, like his Tsar outfit that he was wearing when the Russians were around. His Fabergé eggs.
So yeah, we spoke about the allegations of potential collusion with Russia in episode 2. We also were looking at the investigations which had begun by the FBI and CIA prior to Trump even being voted in as president. As things stand at the moment, then how is that kind of moved on? Where are we at with the Trump Russia investigation?
Well, when we had done that episode, that was in April, so we were kind of sketchy. We were discussing the fact that Trump has possibly been affiliated, members of his cabinet have been affiliated and have actually have stepped down from their positions because
Michael Flynn's the only person who any kind of prosecution's been brought to or charges have been brought against.
So that's exactly what I was just going to get to, that we now have a scenario where there has been charges since then, so we can take from there was possible collusion from the Trump administration to there was definite collusion by people in the Trump administration. There's still a very shaky question mark over whether or not Trump was involved. However, Steve Bannon, who at the time was Trump's right-hand man and had just been taken down from being
Big Shawnee
B, had just been taken down. There's a blast from the past. That's nearly a year's shite joke. And it's still going. But yeah, so at the time he had just stepped down from the War Council, the military strategists for Trump. Since then now, it kind of looks like from his book, he's suggesting that Trump was in fact...
Well, it's not his book, it's Michael Wolff's book.
From his words in Michael Wolff's book, he's suggested that there is collusion, there was collusion involving Trump. I mean, he actually used the word that you used at the time, Jerry, which is treason.
Yeah.
He suggested that it was treasonous. Now, I will say, as a caveat to all of this, that in March and April last year, our standing was that Steve Bannon is a corrupt, shady bastard who's involved with the alt-right. That hasn't changed. So even though Bannon is saying that Trump done all these things, I believe Bannon about as much as I believe Trump.
They're both pretty untrustworthy dudes. Sloppy Steve, as Trump has taken to call him in the past couple of days, isn't the most trustworthy guy in the world. So.
And it's hilarious though, Jerry, because see, if I was going to have someone to essentially run my campaign, Sloppy Steve would be the guy I would choose.
He's the guy I would. Although, as we both know, Paul, Trump didn't necessarily choose Bannon. He was more instructed to use him by Robert Mercer.
Yes, but remember, Gerard, that he's a stable fucking genius. So
he wouldn't have had anything imposed on him.
Not at all. Stable genius. The only two people, may I add, in the last year who are in the public eye who have used stable to properly describe themselves are Theresa May and Donald Trump. Two of the least stable politicians that have ever existed.
Both supremely electable though, they must be because they both won.
Well, Theresa May didn't. That's not what happened.
Well,
she wasn't electable.
Wait a sec. She didn't actually win a majority, did she? She lost a majority.
She made friends with the DUP. Now, we were talking, did we go into Brexit here?
We did, yeah, we moved on to Brexit and well, I think episode 3 was Brexit.
So, that's funny that we would go to the DUP then, because staying on that subject, one of the things that we discussed was one of the issues that was certainly being suggested by the fringe groups at the time when Brexit was when Brexit had just been Article 50'd was what was going to happen in Ireland. Obviously, at the present moment, as things stand right now, for those who have never travelled between Belfast and Dublin, like between north and south, you can literally travel between north and south. You can get in a car. I mean, I don't know what this says about this is going to fucking wind up every single fucking right person. But essentially, me and Jerry drove from here, got on a ferry, travelled to the other side into Belfast and drove to Dublin, and at no point did anyone check anything to do with anything. Like, where are you going? Over there, no problem. That was pretty much it.
We had a car full of fucking lots of actually weapons, blades, all sorts of stuff, things to start fires.
So we were going camping. So essentially, like, I can't begin to stress that. So, but in the car, because we were going camping, we did have things like a camping axe, 2 camping axes actually. We had camping knives. We had ball bearings for the slingshots that we were going to be testing. We had lots of things that essentially, like, we had lots of things that if it was 1982 and 2 McCanns showed up in a car, we had a box full of ball bearings to drive to Belfast. we would definitely have been turned round.
We were also both sporting full-on Al-Qaeda beards at the time, I think.
I also had a shabba and a kilt on. I looked like I looked like I was up for a wee smidgen of terror.
Yeah, you look like a Taliban with an identity crisis.
We also started drinking really early on the like, thinking about it, there was a lot of things that should have flagged the authorities.
Yeah, we I'd like to suggest that we were doing it as some sort of experiment, but we're just idiots.
It's like a pure Tommy Robinson scenario when they were talking about how like I was able to travel between all the different places in in Europe without getting pulled over. It's like and I didn't have to use my passport. Man, that means like you shouldn't be telling people that. Like that's like it's everything against what you believe in. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so what I was getting with that is you can travel. So you can travel from Scotland right through to Dublin without anyone stopping you really at all currently because of the EU rules and regulations.
Yes, and you've got an open border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, which is part of the Good Friday Agreement. It's something that's been in place since the early 90s.
The other thing is as well is it actually matters a lot to like Northern Ireland more than Southern Ireland, which is essentially trade. Like there's a lot of business because Northern Ireland is fucking tiny, right? And there's not a massive amount of stuff happening, not a massive amount of production. So there's a lot of trade and a lot of business that happens with Southern Ireland, and having the border open would cause those problems. I mean, it
massively affects people who live on or near the border because they will travel back and forth across the border on a daily basis. Like if you live in Derry and you travel through to Donegal, that happens all the time. People will go to the south to buy their petrol and then bring it back over the border because the petrol's cheaper down there.
People go to the north to buy their cars. This is like my brother works in that industry, and that's what he was saying. That essentially especially Derry, the area, they do a lot of trade with Republic of Ireland citizens. Essentially, they come up to buy their cars because they can buy a car cheaper. Because the thing people don't tell you about Ireland either is that it's dear as fuck for everything. So yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of trade between the two of them that if you put up a border, it's either going to become a massive inconvenience or it's just going to at least disrupt the trade that's happening. So nobody...
That's without taking into account the fact that it contravenes a Good Friday Agreement. And at the time, I think in the episode, we brought up the fact that the Irish Foreign Minister had suggested that any deal which the UK proposed or which the EU attempted to accept, which involved a hard border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, they promised that they would veto it.
Yeah, I mean, not even they said that essentially,
and that was barely covered by any of the mainstream media in the UK. And we were kind of saying at the time that this is going to be a massive sticking point. This is going to be a big deal, and that has obviously proven to be the case. In the past couple of months, that was the main talking point.
Another thing that might be relevant, I don't know, but it's something that we should think about is this. So we know this is what's coming ahead, and Gerry Adams actually stepped down politically.
Yeah, from Sinn Féin.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just
which I have been informed by a few of the people that I know from Ireland who are in the know politically, that the reason that Gerry Adams has done that is to make them a much more legitimate political party in the south of Ireland.
To remove affiliation.
Yeah, but also to make them a much more legitimate party in the south of Ireland, because at the moment there's a large amount of people who will not vote Sinn Féin in the south of Ireland because of their connections to the Troubles and to the IRA. And as much as Gerry Adams has never openly admitted that he was a member of the IRA, he fucking was.
Aye, we know he was. I mean, like, and as a complete disclosure, both sides of the fence, all of them were involved in paramilitaries, like, essentially...
Yeah, but like Martin McGuinness openly would have admitted his involvement.
Yeah, didn't pretend it was, but...
And it ended up being, you know, kind of the voice of reason within Sinn Féin, and was certainly well liked across the unionist parties, was good friends with Ian Paisley and his son and stuff, and I think his loss has been sorely felt. Like the stuff that's going on with Stormont at the moment, whereby they have a complete deadlock in terms of trying to put together a coalition that can actually run Northern Ireland. I don't think it would be as likely to have occurred if Martin was still with us.
Well, probably. Yeah, I mean, like, it's got a bit like an obituary there. That got a bit intense. But yes, so certainly the reason that we're actually touching on all of this is that there some political changes have happened now, and what we're moving towards is, I don't know if technically we can talk about it because it's fake news, but essentially there was a leak that suggested that the British government had certainly looked at, considered, and were quite in favour of having a sea border.
Yeah, no, I read a couple articles about that as well.
So essentially, then
it had been leaked that that's what had been agreed. That they had agreed that there would be Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland would essentially remain within the single market, within freedom of trade,
as essentially as it is right now, untouched, and then the border would be at the ports.
Yeah, and that would obviously leave a scenario whereby the rest of the UK were politically a different animal from Northern Ireland, and allegedly that had been agreed to in principle between the UK Brexit negotiating party and the rest of the EU without consulting the DUP, who obviously, as Theresa May's main allies in Parliament,
only allies really. I mean,
yeah, well, they are absolutely required for her to get anything through Westminster. So Arlene Foster, the leader of the DUP, came out.
She's a battle axe.
Came out within about an hour and went, "Well, we haven't agreed to this, and we will not agree to this because it's against our entire principles." And the next thing, it was rolled back, and there was intense negotiations. They seem to have came to some sort of agreement at the moment, but it shows the sort of shambling nature of what's going on behind the scenes in the British government right now, that they forgot to fucking ask like the most pertinent people if they were going to back these proposals.
I would argue that it's not. They forgot to ask. I would argue that the scenario is quite straightforward. That there is.
They don't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck. They've not gave a fuck about Northern Ireland for the last 20 years. They're not going to give a fuck about it now.
Look, even somewhere like here, Paul, which would be sort of relatively aware of the situation in Northern Ireland in relative terms, there were folk. My wife's from Northern Ireland, for those that don't know, and there are people over here that she knows through, like, the kids and stuff like that, who were sort of saying to them, "Who are the DUP then? Who are the DUP? I've never heard of the DUP. They're like the fucking major political party of Northern Ireland, them and Sinn Féin, but most people on the UK mainland do not give a fuck about Northern Ireland.
They're like a UKIP version of the Spanish Inquisition." Like they're a particularly strange entity within their own right. They've got they are very.
Nobody expects a DUP.
No one expected them at the last election. That was for sure. They're very Christian-ish.
They're very Christian, except they don't like lots of people.
No,
it depends upon your definition of Christian.
They're very Christian in their persecution. It's probably the best way. But yeah, so what we're actually getting to with that is it's reasonable to say that at this time, something that we highlighted then is that there's going to be probably still a soft border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, because otherwise there is the danger of the Troubles kicking off in any way, shape or form again, or essentially a lot of people pissed off that we are put to rest because of the fact that there was going to be, like, from the Good Friday Agreement, you know what I mean? Essentially a lot of people were chilled because they were happy with the agreements. That's going to go against it. That's a problem. You've got border control. I can't begin to stress to you, like, unless they build a fucking wall, right? So, worst case scenario here, from a pro-Brexit person standpoint, that see, unless they build a fucking wall the entire length of Ireland, people can travel from anywhere in Europe to the Republic of Ireland, and then they can walk over to Northern Ireland and they can get on a ferry across to the UK.
Legally, any kind of hard border contravenes the nature of the Good Friday Agreement. So you've got that's problem number one. Second fucking problem, if you then choose to get over that issue by having open borders between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and keeping a part of the UK within the single market, that leaves you open to exactly what happened the day that the UK government made that announcement, whereby Nicola Sturgeon put her hand up and went, well, if we can have those rules for one part of the UK, why the fuck can we not have them for Scotland? Because that's exactly what we've been asking for.
We know that Wales won't want that, because Wales would much rather shoot themselves in the foot at every given opportunity.
Whenever you went, Wales would much rather I really thought you were going to say something about sheep.
Sheer sheep.
Sheer, yeah, sheer. That's what I thought you were going to say.
But you know, like they wouldn't be interested. But certainly, yeah, I mean, that's another problem. It depends how you view it, but that's another problem, that in the event you allow Northern Ireland to operate as an entity within the single market, it's very difficult to then tell Scotland that they're not allowed to operate as another entity. And as soon as that happens, I mean, the problem that London know right now is as soon as they allow Northern Ireland and essentially Southern Ireland to become a unified Ireland in the way it's going to be, they can't really justify keeping a hold of Scotland anymore either, because if they can prove that Scotland, certainly Scotland have got a definite mandate to go ahead and have another referendum.
It's a crazy juggling act to try and keep everybody happy here. It almost makes you wonder why they don't have somebody slightly better than David Davis looking after it all.
David Davis. So, while we're talking about Brexit,
his mum and dad couldn't even be asked to give him a decent fucking name.
David Davis said that he had seen like 57 reports discussing the viability of Brexit.
No, he said he'd commissioned 58 reports. He consistently said over the course of about 10 months that he had commissioned 58.
Was it not 57? But anyway, 50, top end of 50s anyway, that he was going to do. Just because I didn't realise I was going to talk about this. I forgot that this was a thing. But it's only because he then, like, in the last month has said, I didn't.
Oh yeah, I didn't do them.
And I don't believe in them anyway. I don't believe in reports. Like, I don't read reports.
There was, he'd said it in Parliament, he'd said it in numerous interviews with Andrew Marr, where he had said, oh yeah, no, we've done these feasibility studies, we've done...
That's exactly what it was, feasibility studies. And then he said that he doesn't actually respect or take any interest in feasibility studies.
Impact assessments.
Impact assessments, yeah. And he said that specifically he doesn't believe the results of impact assessments.
But he said that they were ongoing, and he also stated that both the Prime Minister and members of the Cabinet had seen the summaries of these impact assessments.
I've never seen summaries of them. He wrote them in a fucking cardboard box with a crayon.
And then got caught out and had to go, there's not been any of those.
So,
we're not really looking at any of that stuff. I didn't know that.
So,
that'll be fine.
That's a good impression, Jerry. So we're saying that with 1 year left, give or take, I'm going to have to probably cut that large noise if possible. If I can't, that was Jerry butting the mic stand because he was that happy.
Was that fucking angry about David
Davis? I'm totally now lost where I was, Jerry. I'm not going to lie. No, so with regards to the impact assessments, what I've still not fully understand is a politician legally allowed to just like lie in Parliament and say,
well, there were people talking about how he should be prosecuted for it because it was. Let me just check.
So like today, the day of the reshuffle, he certainly should have been not just given the fucking job again.
Yeah, but he has been renewed in his job.
By reshuffle, did you know that the Tory government just take a deck of cards and shuffle them and then just tell someone to choose a card, and whatever it says on that card is now their job? Citation needed.
So yeah, the Independent reported at the time that he'll be avoiding an investigation for contempt of Parliament. So Green Party leader Caroline Lucas and Tim Farron both called for his resignation. Jeremy Corbyn said fuck all about it, and the press in general said fuck all about it. So you do now have a situation in the UK whereby a fucking one of the most important politicians in one of the most important, potentially the most important role that any politician has had in the UK for the last fucking 100 years, forby maybe fucking Winston Churchill being in charge of the country during the Second World War. This man is fucking in charge of where this country is going, and he's fucking winging it, man. He's fucking winging it. We've done all these impact assessments. I've not actually done them. You don't really fucking need them. I'll be fine.
It's another fine impression. We're in a bizarre sequence of events here with Brexit, certainly. Actually, also on the reshuffle, and one of the things that we touched at some point, I believe, and we will get round to it at another point, is the person who's been put in charge of the NHS, I believe. Today. Her husband is in charge of Virgin Care, the private company that's got the NHS contract.
Yeah, it seems like it might be somewhat of a conflict of interest.
I can't actually perceive more of a conflict of interest. I mean, it would be like, see if your wife was the Prime Minister.
And you were in charge of like a massive hedge fund that owned like lots of shares in, say, Starbucks and Google and Amazon and all these people who weren't paying tax. And then the Prime Minister said that she was going to make sure that those people paid tax, but then that would actually make you bring home less money and make both of you less rich.
So, and then she then said she's not going to make them pay more tax. It would be like that kind of conflict of interest. But that's obviously a hypothetical situation.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, I mean, that couldn't happen. That's a shout back to one of our other episodes where we discussed that very thing.
Oh, bit of callback.
Love it. So like with Brexit, one of our big problems, and it's kind of the last that we really need to talk about it, is we still don't know what's happening because the government still don't know what's happening. We've got a year. Well, a thing that did come up since the last episode, they chose a fucking date for it to happen, like April next year or something similar to that.
March 2019.
The very end of it, like it's like
like the 31st.
Yeah. So essentially, wait. So we leave the EU on April Fool's Day.
Oh, they didn't give that to that woman.
Oh, did they not?
No, they must have shot themselves. Jeremy Hunt's kept it again, even though everybody fucking hates him.
To be honest, I can't tell who I would like to have that job less. I mean, I don't like Jeremy Hunt at all. But
do you know why it's happened?
Because she's got a conflict of interest and her husband works for Virgin Care.
No, it's not even. It's because Jeremy Hunt refused a job as business secretary, and Theresa May clearly was in a position to just say, "We fucking doing it." It says Jeremy Hunt, the health secretary. This is in the Telegraph. Successfully faced down Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, when she asked him to become business secretary, forcing Mrs May to tear up her plans to promote and move other ministers who were already penciled in.
Strong and stable.
That's fucking embarrassing.
Our Prime Minister, literally, the only thing that Jeremy Hunt has stood up to, apart from not paying nurses correctly in the last fucking 4
Jeremy
years.
Hunt, the man who wrote a book about how the NHS should be privatised, is in charge of the NHS. Welcome to the UK in 2018, ladies and gentlemen.
Prime Minister of the UK can't tell one of our own cabinet what job he's to do.
You're going to have to be business secretary. No, I don't. Okay, then that's fine.
that's the most strong and stable of any Prime Minister.
Yeah. I think she wants to stick to running through wheat fields.
Backwards.
Yeah, on her head.
I don't know if that's sexy or not.
It's Theresa May. It's definitely not sexy. She's never done anything sexy in her life.
Citation needed. Just because I'm going to say that, like, you don't actually know. Like, she might have been really, really, really sexy in her late teens. You know what I mean? When she was like 17, 18, she might have been the sexiest woman in the whole of the UK.
She might have been.
She probably wasn't. I'm actually pretty certain there's pictures there going about telling gay people they're not allowed to be gay. Like, I'm sure that's a thing.
I don't think that we should be judging the Prime Minister of the UK based on her sexuality and desirableness anyway, Paul.
No, absolutely agree. Which is convenient.
Because we can.
Because,
So
that's the least of her worries. She's an absolute cow, terrible at her job, and she's a cunt anyway. So like, judging her. Otherwise, it's just totally irrelevant.
I know my face might have went, fucking hell, Paul, you're laying it on a bit thick there, but I'm in complete agreement with you.
So, kind of going off that, the next place that we ended up in the grand scheme of stuff was on
Cambridge
drugs.
Analytica.
Oh no, it was Cambridge Analytica. An
We've
episode.
just jumped 2 episodes.
No, right. So I will give you right. So this is completely to everyone who's listening. I do everything in my power to avoid the Cambridge Analytica subject now, purely because we spent so much time studying it. We've done it so earlier than most of the other people that actually done the story. We've done live shows on it. We've spoke about it on other shows. I mean, we've like shit. We have spoke
It's
Cambridge
been done to death.
To death. It's the equivalent of Pearl Jam no wanting to play a live at a gig because they're sick of people asking to hear a live. Do you know what I mean? We've done a lot in Cambridge Analytica, so that's why I shut it out from
In
my
many
mind.
ways, we're like the Eddie Vader of podcasts.
And Cambridge Analytica is like our Alive. Except Eddie Vader's got tons and tons of talent and ability and Alive's amazing.
And no, we never killed anybody at a festival. I'm not saying the Pearl Jam. I'm not saying...
I'm now looking across the room at Jerry just like, he better have something to back up the Pearl Jam killed a person at a festival because no, I'm confident that didn't happen.
We have never been playing at a festival when members of the crowd died, is what I meant.
So, just to be clear, Eddie Vader didn't kill a man.
Eddie Vader is one of my absolute heroes, like
for his murder. He's Jerry's murder hero.
But yeah, there was a famous incident at Roskilde years ago where Pearl Jam were playing and the crowd rushed the stage and people were crushed to death. I'm not suggesting for a second.
Wait, bring it down, Jerry.
I'm not suggesting for a second that was Eddie Vader's fault. I'm just saying he was there.
No, you absolutely did suggest it was Eddie Vader's fault, though.
It's not. It wasn't. I'm sorry. I apologise for that.
I apologise, Eddie.
So, in terms of Cambridge Analytica...
Shit, there's a whole load of stuff. So, since the time of Cambridge Analytica, since the story broke, it's kind of grew legs. I mean, for a start, within a couple of weeks, the episode that we recorded, people in Parliament started questioning the validity of whether or not there was stuff going on. The FBI started heavily investigating more into the collusion with the Russians and into Cambridge Analytica's collusion with the Russians.
It has been reported in various newspaper outlets, press outlets, that the ongoing FBI investigations have requested information from Cambridge Analytica and SCL Group
And Facebook.
Regarding the potential collusion regarding the purchase of adverts throughout the political campaigns, with the sort of nature of having fake news type output.
Brexit as well. There's also been a lot of talk regarding their involvement with Brexit, regarding Farage and investments and where the monies went from the different... essentially the stuff that we spoke about from the episode.
And our wee pal Darren Grimes from the... What was it?
He totally fucked up.
Yeah, he did massively. So he was the wee guy who...
He was like the 17-year-old art student.
Yeah, who was running the Believe campaign for... it was like a youth movement for that was pro-Brexit.
Also sounds like a 90s dance band.
Yeah. Believe, yeah, like they supported D-Ream.
D-Ream in Tour Unlimited. It was, the ticket looked horrible.
Everybody's free to leave the EU, something like that. So he made a statement during one of his interviews fairly recently, in which he said that the reason that he had chose to spend £675,000 with Aggregate IQ was after he had seen the excellent work that they had done for Ted Cruz during his bid to become the presidential candidate for the Republican Party. Now, as we all know, Aggregate IQ didn't do any work for Ted Cruz to win that candidacy. It was, in fact, Cambridge Analytica. So,
in fact, Cambridge Analytica, Oakes, I believe, Nigel Oakes, it might not have been
Alexander
Nigel,
Nix.
was it Alexander Nix, who is on record saying he has nothing to do with aggregate IQ and aggregate IQ weren't involved. Yeah. But our boy Grimsey was just
managed to tie aggregate IQ and Cambridge Analytica together. And the next thing that happened after that was that he was investigated by the Electoral Commission, and there was now, I think that has opened up further investigation by them. They are looking at Cambridge Analytica. They are looking at aggregate IQ. They're looking at SCL Group. Me and
Jerry read that article. It was like, oh shit! It was
boy, so fucked up.
It was so funny. It was like, well, we can be relatively confident that Grimesy's going to be found up a hill with the worst case of suicide, with 2 shots to the back of his head.
Yeah, and we would all have been very sad about that.
Yeah, absolutely, because we don't wish that on anyone. So more about Cambridge Analytica. Obviously, Steve Bannon was a big part to play in all of that as well. Certainly his name was bandied about. And like we said, since then, Bannon now doesn't work for Trump. And he now seems to have an agenda against Trump. Now, there has been... There's a lot of questions over the fact that, as we spoke about that episode and as we spoke about that stuff, I don't actually know if it was spoke about in one of our episodes. It certainly was in the pilot, where Bannon was on record with Vanity Fair saying that they were just using Trump to get into the White House, and Trump didn't fully understand their agenda. Now, we don't know officially what that agenda is or what he was alluding to, but since all of this is all broke, he now doesn't work for Trump, and he's now got a vendetta against Trump.
And he's now claimed that Trump's actions during his presidential campaign were treasonous.
Yes.
Now, this is now going to get into the realms of Paul and Jerry's opinion, which I will admit that quite a lot of this episode has been. But if with that caveat, this is what I'm going to say. We have thought for quite a long time that perhaps the real person that Bannon and Mercer want to be in charge in the White House is Mike Pence. Few reasons for that. One, they were the people who insisted that he was the guy who went in on the ticket with Trump.
They insisted he was the vice president.
Yeah.
He has right-wing views.
Massively.
He has got heavy religious views.
Yeah. And also, he doesn't have major financial backing from anywhere else. There's a lot of evidence in some of the articles that I've read that actually he was in financial hardship prior to being appointed the Trump's running mate. So he's easily controlled by them, and you will also notice that he's not been caught up in any of the overspill from these investigations.
He seems super squeaky clean in comparison to like anyone that's attached to the Trump name, as far as the news outlets go and the stories go and Facebook stuff go.
And if Trump was to be impeached, he'd be the man in charge.
So again, this is purely speculation, but something that we've discussed for a long time, pretty much since before we were investigating the Cambridge Analytica stuff, was that they had spoke about the fact that they had this endgame and they were using Trump to get into the White House. Now, we can all agree, no matter how you perceive him as good or bad, Trump is a bit of a wild cannon, you know what I mean? He's a bit of a...
That well-known saying.
Loose cannon, wild card. I do apologise. But he's definitely...
like mixing your metaphors, Paul.
Yeah, he's a bit of a loose card. And he might not be the type of person you want if you had an agenda, because you could be like, you should do this thing, it's the agenda, and he could be like, well, my butt's bigger than your butt. You're a fucking lunatic, man. Stop tweeting things, you fucking psychopath.
Somebody take his phone off him.
Jesus, just change his password. Anyway, but Pence is much more passive and less narcissistic. Do you know what I mean? So he might be the person that they want in place. And if that's what...
He just looks happy to be there.
Aye. And
he's a non-entity who is there by default almost. You know?
So it might be playing into the scenario well, where now that Bannon's not affiliated with Trump, they can put all that power that they had shown behind being able to get Trump the position, to be able to get Trump disliked, impeached possibly, but certainly lose favour to the Trump supporters. And if you can make them lose favour to the Trump supporters, then you can get him impeached. The problem that he's got is he has protection at the moment, because he has so much people in the US like him, but they've got the ability to sway opinion. They've shown that time and time again.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have that many people in the US like him. I think it was on a TV show I was watching the other day. They had a data journalist on there whose name escapes me right now, but she's very good. It was on Frankie Boyle's New World Order 2017 review. Maybe that's where we got the idea to have a 2017 review.
I've not seen it yet, so
I think her name's Mina Akrabati, something like that. But she was talking about how historically Trump is the most disliked president in history. His approval rating's about 29%. The only one who's came close to that is Gerald Ford. So he is not well liked in the US as a whole. He just has a demographic which turned up and voted for him. However, the person who we should really be concerned about if they do get in is Pence, because if you look at his history, what he's politically voted for, what he has politically stood for in the past, you're talking about a fucking creationist, man. You're talking about somebody who has campaigned to take away the power of schools to teach evolution.
I mean, I would say that there's probably, though, and without being 100% certain of this, but I was weirdly reading on the President's United States the other day. I don't even know why. I think I've got a problem. But there are a pile of presidents who would certainly be classed as very religious and creationist, even in the last 100 years, say. Like, my concern isn't even so much that side of things. My concern is much more the side of things to do with, like, his anti-gay stance. You know what I mean? Like, so from the religious point of view, like, if he believes...
Is that not the same thing? Does that not tie into his religious beliefs?
Well, it doesn't. But see, to be honest, see if he believes the Earth's 6,000 years old and there isn't such a thing as fucking dinosaurs, then fucking, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? It literally makes no difference to me. It means that he's no the brightest, but it makes no difference to me. However, if he wants to start taking away the rights to be recognised as a gay person, to be recognised as the same as being a straight person with regards to things like life and just your day-to-day being in love with someone and all that kind of snowflake liberal crap or whatever, but you know what I mean, if they want to take away those basic fundamental rights of people, that's a problem. That's persecution of a group of people. And at least for all the bad things you can say about Trump, for all the misconceptions that people seem to have about Trump's opinion on these things, Trump doesn't give a fuck. Like, as in, he doesn't care. Like, see anyone who's voted for Trump because he thinks that Trump, like, doesn't like gays or transvestites or blacks or Mexicans or anything. Trump doesn't care. Trump will employ a gay, transvestite, black Mexican without any problem at all.
If he thinks they'll make him money.
He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care. And I think that's possibly the only redeeming quality of Trump, that he is a self-centered psychotic narcissist. So he only cares about himself. Like, he only cares about how he is perceived and what the world thinks about him and how he can better himself and make more money. That's why he passed that fucking mad tax
bill
change that essentially only affects like real estate developers and people with international business. Like, America, he passed a law that makes him richer, and in the long term,
and loads of poor fucking redneck motherfuckers went, woo! Yeah, that's my president!
They're protected for a year, right? They're protected for a year. Essentially, the middle class have got a year or so protection, and then the tax can go wherever it wants. But all the people who do finance, real estate, and international business are now paying the least amount of fucking business tax. Another thing that we discussed in another episode before.
It's okay because trickle-down economics.
Yeah, which doesn't work. Absolutely 100% fact. People have even been on our Facebook to say, where do they teach people in finance about trickle-down economics? The answer is at university.
Stanford, Harvard.
The answer is at universities where they teach you about economics. They talk about it there. So yeah, I kind of went off on one, but essentially what I was getting to all of that was that, like, Trump doesn't care about those things. If you voted for him because you believe that he has, like, you and him in a kindred spirit because you both hate black people or you both think that transvestites are getting too much rights, he doesn't give a fuck. If he thought the whole of the US wanted to see transvestites being given 4 toilets in every Walmart, he would do it because it would make him more popular, and he doesn't give a fuck.
Have you ever seen that quote where he said, if I was ever going to run as president, I would run as a Republican candidate?
Because I can use Fox News and get them to lap up any old shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a slight variant of what he said, but that's essentially what he said.
I was going to say it's actually fake news because he didn't say that.
Oh, did he not?
No.
Never?
No. Apparently not. Apparently it's complete bullshit.
Interesting.
I just thought, see how I lulled you into that?
Yeah, I did see that. Did see that. Yeah, I mean, like, as far as I was aware, he had said it, and I'm going to use Vanity Fair again, but I don't think it was Vanity Fair in like the mid-90s.
No, I mean, I'll find the link and I'll post it up.
Interesting.
The other link that I'll post up was one that was sent to me by our good friend, the newspaper editor, which is
that's his actual name.
An article on data mining, and it's about Cambridge Analytica. It's called "The Data Mining Firm that gamed Facebook to help Trump and Brexit is tied with the NATO national security complex, private military contractors, global fossil fuel industry, and pro-Tory financial oligarchy invested in Russian property markets." It's a really fucking interesting deep dive article which looks into like British property tycoons and stuff, and how and NATO and PMCs, arms manufacturers, wine merchants, the NSA, and how they're all tied in with Cambridge Analytica, and basically hypothesizes that Facebook is going to have more power than government within the next 10 years.
Well, see, that's where the problem lies. I mean, as we alluded to on the episode, the guys who we know that stuff. So actually, and this is another thing from the Brexit episode that from the Cambridge Analytica episode that we've not spoke about. At the time we done the episode, in the articles on the Guardian, it absolutely 100% mentioned
Eric Schmidt
and
his daughter Sophie Schmidt.
Mesher Schmidt. Eric Schmidt and Sophie Schmidt. And now both those names have been completely redacted from all the information. Now, we've still got copies of the original articles with their names in them, but you can't find them online anymore.
And for anyone who doesn't know who Eric Schmidt is, he is the CEO of Alphabet, who is the company who owns Google.
And for people who don't know who Sophie Schmidt was, Sophie Schmidt,
that's his Wayne.
Sophie Schmidt's his daughter, who told the guys at SCL Group that they should essentially form Cambridge Analytica with Robert Mercer and go and do what they done.
She set up a meeting with Palantir.
So then you've got a scenario here where Palantir is the military contractor, the guy who's in charge of Palantir.
Have all of the fucking contracts for data mining for the NSA.
The guy who's in charge of
and
Palantir
GCHQ
owns 10% of Facebook.
Peter Thiel.
They're best mates with Google, Eric Schmidt.
Yep.
They're all friends with Elon Musk.
Friends of Musk.
Elon Musk were advisors to Trump.
And so is Peter Thiel.
And so is
Robert Mercer.
And so
who developed voice
recognition software
for IBM.
And he also is the main investor in Breitbart, who was in charge of by Steve Bannon, who was also
the
board
vice
of directors
president of Cambridge Analytica.
So you'll notice
how all this ties together.
So you'll notice that there is an argument to say now. And about 5 of them are mates with Farage, just saying as well on top of that.
Oh yeah, they are. And also Carol Cadwallader, who was the original journalist who kind of broke all of this stuff in the Guardian and who is doing fine work.
Carol C.
Apologises for my wee bit of cough here. She also exposed the fact that Farage had been talking to Julian Assange. And
Assange?
I went for Assange.
I like Assange myself. I think you're giving him too much credence. Assange.
Julian Assange.
So he's not getting called that after Brexit. His name's Julian Assange.
Right. I thought you were going to say he wasn't getting called that in the morning after he raped those 2 women.
Are we saying that definitely happened now?
Allegedly.
we're allegedly saying that happened, or we're saying that happened allegedly.
We're saying that allegedly happened.
Right, cool. Just checking.
So
also, he's fucking met up with him, and essentially it turns out that you can just fucking buy that prick for as much money as you want to buy him by the looks of things.
Well, also Cambridge Analytica approached him with regard to leaking the Clinton and Podesta emails, which were then leaked prior to the presidential campaign. So he leaked emails. This is the man who...
The non-partisan?
Yes, non-partisan, exactly. Started WikiLeaks on the basis of, we're just going to share all of this information with everybody. He actively campaigned on behalf of Trump. Why did he do that, you ask? Perhaps because he was promised a pardon.
Well, I mean, like, Jerry's kicking the stand because he's happy about his statement again. But, I mean, this is where the problem lies, that as I understood WikiLeaks was power to the people. I'll get information and share it out to everyone.
They were back once again with the Renegade Master.
They were. But as it turns out, it was back once again with the Renegade Master.
Back once again with the Renegade Master.
Don't know if I'm
Swedish Damager, power to the people.
Did you say Swedish Damager?
Yeah.
That's what they call him. But yeah, so essentially we've now discovered that Julian Assange, instead of giving this information, if he had fucking emails about Clinton, he could have released them the same way he's released everything else. Instead, he gave it to one side of that political campaign, one side that we're using Facebook and we're using
and
data
at a
collection.
specific time which affected the election.
So he's went from non-partisan to completely...
Partisan as fuck.
Partisan, completely affiliated with the Republican Party. PAF. It's not going to be a t-shirt this year.
Hashtag PAF. Partisan as fuck.
2018 PAF. Yeah, so that's another thing that's came out of this, that essentially we now can't trust Julian Assange. Now, weirdly...
Because I trusted him like fuck before.
Well, I mean, I didn't trust him, but I didn't not trust him.
No, I mean, back in the day I had quite a lot of respect for WikiLeaks. I now think he's a horrible prick. And it's not because of his political ideals as such, but I think that what he done there was totally snide. And also, if he'd have done it in the open, as he's always professed, this is how I operate. But he didn't do that.
An investigative journalist told us a year later.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, that's the only reason we know about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, see right now, see Carol, she's doing fucking great work. She's a great investigative journalist, and she's bringing out information. Like, literally, see if you see...
She won the big... I can't remember the name of the award.
Faculty of the Year.
She
won the Faculty of the Year. It was her and No Fielding. What a team.
She won the big award for investigative journalism in the UK last year. So it's great that she's being recognised. She deserves it. You should all read her stuff.
That's it. Do you know what? There's a couple of thousand people that are going to listen to this episode. See if you don't already. Go on Twitter and follow her, because what she's doing is really good. See out with everybody else that we've ever advised you to go and fucking listen to. Like, there's other people out there that are great, that we genuinely like, but...
Mr. Ethical,
yeah.
Nick Wilson is really good as well.
Yeah, he's also
Nicholas
really
Wilson.
good.
But Carol Cadwallader is the fucking, in my opinion, one of the best journalists operating in the UK right now.
Yeah, and I mean, she's even, I would arguably say there's few journalists that I've seen of all the studying that we've done for all the episodes worldwide that cares so little for the outcome of what it is she's reporting.
For her career, like...
Aye, I mean, like, the stuff that she's reporting on, well, put it this way, there was a court case that got Schmidt removed from her articles, but when she put them in, she framed the members of Google for being involved with this. Now, they've been removed by a court case, so you can probably take a stab in the dark and say she was right. Yeah. Because it got flagged to the point where she got removed for this. And see if they didn't look at it and think there was something wrong, something to be worried about, and something they didn't want their name attached to, they wouldn't have removed it.
But you could also say that there was obviously not enough proof, so there was enough proof to keep them in the article. However, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I do.
Aye.
I'm just playing.
I get it. So that's probably everything that we have to discuss regarding
Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
Which moves us on to episode 5, which was the Middle East.
Yeah, it was terror. Ah! That's the sound of me having to noise gate the fuck out that section. Yeah, good. So, glad that happened.
So yeah, I mean the big takeaway from the Middle East episode was the Yemen, and what was happening in the Yemen.
We're doing the Yemen, right?
We're going with the Yemen. We're going with the Yemen. Yeah, I like the Yemen. It's my new thing.
Did you also see a big takeaway for the Middle East?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Just checking.
Just chicken shawarma and some like hummus and some labneh and stuff like that.
Parathas.
What's that?
It's flaky bread. So you use ghee. So essentially, it's like a chapati, but what you do is you roll it up and then you put it into a spiral. You keep on covering it with ghee and then you roll it back out again. It creates layers, and then when you fry it, it's like flakier than a normal chapati.
There you go. There you go. And you can find Paul's cooking channel coming up soon.
Yeah, very, very soon. That's not even a joke. That's a thing that's going to be happening in the next month.
So the big thing that we spoke about, or one of the big things, was that the Yemen was undergoing the biggest. Sorry, well, right. I can't be laughing when I say this.
Well, stop saying. I know, but stop saying like the Yemen. It makes it sound like a baddie in fucking Indiana Jones or some shit. Like.
Okay, I apologise that I was laughing because what I was about to say.
He's about to talk about like deaths or like wins.
I was about to talk about the biggest cholera outbreak in history. At the time we spoke about it, it was on course to be the biggest cholera outbreak in history. It has now far exceeded being the largest cholera outbreak in history.
Which is just the biggest. So
yeah,
it's now,
it's like massively the biggest.
It's biggest and it's bigger now than
it may never be caught. It's like the Floyd Mayweather of cholera outbreaks.
What, it keeps on offering up £1 million for people who likes and shares on Facebook?
No, I wish somebody would knock the fuck out it.
Nice.
See what I did there?
And also that was Jerry in the event Floyd Mayweather is listening to this. Just like, I know it seems unlikely, but you know, like if I heard this and I wasn't one of the presenters, I would absolutely be tagging Floyd Mayweather on Twitter. Like,
yeah, bring it on Mayweather, you fucking wanker. So yeah, I mean, he's supposed to have punched women in the face, like, so fuck him.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a great guy. I'm just saying that, like, he's arguably one of the best boxers that's ever existed, and as such, you probably like if your challenge is Jenga.
I don't want to fight him in a boxing ring.
You want to fight with a Shark Tank?
Colin McGregor, that's not a person.
Conor
McGregor would have knocked the shit out of him in a UFC ring. Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah, because you could like kick him in that, joke him out,
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't. What I'm saying is, if you were in a UFC ring,
I could knock the fuck out of him if I had a massive fucking hammer.
I bet you couldn't.
I bet I fucking give it a good go.
And that's very, very different. Like right now,
I wouldn't be scared of him if I had a big fucking hammer.
I don't know, man. I'd still be scared of him. The guy's one of the best boxers ever existed, and you've got a hammer. Like,
what about a hammer and a really sharp knife?
I'm glad the knife is really sharp.
None of your blunt knife tips for me.
No, really sharp knife. So you have a surgical.
I don't fuck with none of them blunt knives.
Man, honestly, see if the outcome of this episode is people listening and just like, those two just talk shite about their episodes for 2 hours and Jerry challenged Conor McGregor.
No, I did not challenge Conor McGregor. No, listen, let's get this straight. I fucking do not want to fight Conor McGregor in any situation with any amount of weapons.
Because Conor McGregor will actually fight you. Like, Floyd Mayweather's no likely, but Conor McGregor just be like, I'm the best podcaster fighter in the world. Just fucking show up.
Conor McGregor, actually, to be fair, if Conor McGregor does his PR fucking sparkle and just glitters gold dust all over this and makes me earn like 500 million just for getting the shite beaten out of me, which is basically what he did when he fought Floyd Mayweather, then I'm into it.
Aye, man. Me too.
I'm into watching you.
I'm into watching our Patreon fly up as you get murdered.
I can't help but feel that we've in some way detracted
from the cholera
outbreak
right,
in the Yemen.
Talking about... I was just going to say, like, talking about, please don't call it the Yemen, it's deadly. Like,
cholera is deadly.
Like, cholera is a dark subject to talk about. It's really difficult to get any kind of joke out of it. So totally sidetracking by getting you to fight the world's arguably greatest boxer
was a stroke of comedy genius.
Oh, much better. Aye. Because we're now going to go back to the fact that tons of people are dying in Yemen. Don't die Yemen, you cunt. Of cholera.
Yeah. So in October, The Guardian reported. So this was a good sort of 5 months after our initial podcast that the millionth case had happened. I think we can assume that now, 2 months on, there's been more than 1 million cases. I recently was watching the football and saw an extremely sad advert from the Red Cross begging for fucking money, showing pictures of fucking children dying and shit over there. 600,000 children have been affected by cholera. It's the largest and fastest spreading outbreak of the disease in modern history. 1 million cases expected by the end of the year. The World Health Organization has reported that more than 815 suspected cases of the disease have happened in Yemen, and there have been over 2,000, between 2,000 and 3,000 deaths.
But Gerard,
4,000 suspected cases daily.
why is the cholera outbreak happening in Yemen? Just to remind people?
Well, I think what's important to let people know is that the UK is doing its bit. We are the third biggest donator of aid to the cholera outbreak in Yemen. So we are doing our best to prevent it from happening.
Are we though? I'd say that we're doing our best at producing aid for a problem that arguably we helped create.
You mean that we are the ones who are selling all of the weapons to Saudi, who are bombing Yemen and causing this cholera outbreak?
I mean, if I recall,
that is a good point.
I mean, I recall in the episode that specifically one of the reasons that was cited for such a large cholera outbreak was the Saudis were actively targeting the
desalination
plant, the water treatment plants, which was creating a more beneficial environment to the cholera to spread. I mean, essentially because the water was...
See, this is the problem with you leftists. You just hate your fucking country.
I hate the government
You just want to fucking see it knocked down.
So there's an argument to say, as we sell fighter jets...
What do you want? Do you want us to just bring all these Islamist Yemenis over to the UK so that they can suicide bomb the place and cause no-go zones in every major city in the UK?
Because it's so funny. Like, these are arguments that I've genuinely had with people, and Jerry's kind of playing devil's arsehole at the present moment. But I mean, like, these are arguments that genuinely I've had with people. Now, bit of seriousness, we are, as the UK, the third largest weapons supplier. We fucking, between us and America, we are shifting tons and tons and tons of military hardware to Saudi, and Saudi are actively creating this problem. They're also controlling what aid is actually making its way into Yemen, and they're also making active civilian targets to create this problem. The reason that fucking people in Yemen are dying is because we, as in the UK and America, are turning a blind fucking eye. That's it.
And it's a sectarian war.
And it is a sectarian war. And on top of that, where is it in our fucking news? Like,
yeah.
Where is it in our news? Where is it? Like, yes, there's a Red Cross advert, but where is it in our news?
Well, the only way it's ever covered in our news is to say, oh, look, there's this awful cholera epidemic happening here. It's due to civil war in Yemen. It doesn't mention the fact that the Saudis are the ones who are fucking continuing this war.
I'm going to go off of one here. So almost every day on the BBC website, I argue with fucking morons, absolute grade A cretins who tell me that the BBC is a fucking left-wing fucking propaganda machine. Well, do you know what? The BBC aren't reporting that we are fucking selling weapons. They are a fucking mouthpiece for the government. That's it. That's the black and white yet. They are the mouthpiece for the government. They are not telling you what we are doing and how we are exasperating a situation that is causing literally millions of people, children and women and men. And I know, as I've seen recently when they were talking about more boats of people fucking travelling from Africa, that people seem to have an issue with men in this scenario, as in they have an issue with, oh look, it's a boat full of men that are refugees.
You mean rape refugees?
Oh, that's what they call them. You're the worst type of person today. But I mean, essentially, yes, it's men, but it's also women and children. They're fucking dying of a horrendous, totally curable disease.
I'd just like to state that I do not think that refugees are rape refugees. It's just that's
another
something...
one of the things that have been said to us in relatively recent scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, it really gets at me because people talk about it as if, like, as if they're reporting fucking, oh, but look at how bad it is in Yemen. They're not reporting how bad it is in Yemen. They're telling you.
Well, they are, but they're not reporting why it's so bad it is in Yemen.
But even then, they're not reporting how
Yemen.
bad it is in Yemen. Like, I mean, they're reporting, they're mentioning it. Something, stop doing that. They're reporting it. They're reporting it sometimes, but they're not reporting it as it should be. They're not reporting. I mean, see, to be honest, we just done an episode in North Korea. I don't give a fuck about Trump and fucking Kim Jong-un having an argument, and I don't.
But you know that they are the biggest fucking donators. The US are the biggest donators of aid to North Korea, but they are also the ones who are fucking actively banging drums for fucking war with North Korea.
But I don't want to see, when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to see on the news, in fucking newspapers, on fucking Facebook feeds, on any of that shit, these two fucking muppets throwing names at each other on Twitter when they should be reporting on the fact that we are funding a tyrannical regime to fucking murder and persecute loads of people over a fucking sectarian war.
But perhaps the reason that we don't want to criticise Saudi Arabia is because we still want to win their IPO when they float Saudi Aramco.
There's no perhaps. It's absolutely definite. On episode 6, I believe. Was it 6?
No,
drugs?
I've just jumped one.
Was 6 on drugs?
Yeah.
Shit, that'd have been a great segue into episode fucking 7. Can we do that? Right, so quickly we'll jump to episode 7, then we can move back to episode 6 because they're all linked anyway. But in episode 7, we discussed that very thing. That essentially we are fucking absolute best friends with Saudi at the present moment because Saudi are wanting to float their oil in the London Stock Exchange.
We quashed a report into the funding of terrorism worldwide because we did not want to embarrass Saudi Arabia and because we want to win their business to float as a IPO, the biggest stock flotation in the history of all motherfucking time.
Well, but I mean, you just said funding of terrorism, but Trump made it clear through another fucking moronic tweet the other day that Iran is the biggest funder of terrorism in the world. That's what he stated.
Well, it must be true because he doesn't lie.
And he's fucking a stable genius or some shit. But the reason that Iran are because they're the other side of this sectarian coin. They are the people who would be absolutely, definitely wanting to help the Yemen.
Yeah, they're Shiites.
Yeah, they want to help people in Yemen. They want to prevent this. They actually are.
You said the Yemen.
I done it on purpose. You didn't even notice. But yeah, so they want to take that side. So now they're our enemy. But so we are still in the scenario where, I mean, it looks pretty much like it's coming to London.
The London Stock Exchange, as we mentioned in the episode, changed their rules to allow publicly owned companies, state-owned companies to float
a smaller percentage,
which allows Saudi Arabia to be able to float on Saudi Aramco to be able to float on the London Stock Exchange. Now, in the Financial Times 3 days ago, there was an article which stated that Saudi Arabia had now issued a set of legal instructions to prepare its state energy giant, Saudi Aramco, for a planned 2018 initial public offering. That's what IPO stands for, ladies and gentlemen, which is set to be the largest ever. So there have now been concrete steps put in place. There have been members of boards allocated, etc. Now, what the Financial Times article fails to mention is that HSBC already have the contract for this. So HSBC will get a commission on, I think, 5 or 10% of whatever this potentially 2 trillion rated company sells its stock for.
Yeah, I mean, so understand this, like, I mean, 5 or 10% doesn't sound that much, but if you say 2 trillion and then they float 5% of 2 trillion and then HSBC get 5% of 5% of 2 trillion, HSBC are making, in layman's terms, an absolute fuckload of cash. Now, there's taxes and stuff involved in that kind of bit as well, so I don't know.
And also, if it floats on the London Stock Exchange, every broker who deals with every microtransaction which is involved in that process, there's so much money to be made. It would be huge for the London Stock Exchange, and not only, for the City of London. Not only financially, but in terms of prestige.
See, if you wanted to keep, I don't know, like your fucking country afloat after you were leaving the EU, Probably the best way to do it is take on a whole shitload of cash for Saudi.
Massive statement of intent.
Yeah.
And they are desperate to win it. And this is why we will not criticise Saudi. This is why we continue to sell them weapons.
By we mean the BBC.
Yeah, because I'll fucking happily criticise them.
The other thing, the other reason that we'll not criticise them though is because literally HSBC, the BBC and BAE Systems and Saudi Arabia and the British government are all in bed together and have been consistently for about the last 30 years.
100%, yeah. 100, and like, so there's other things which have came out since the HSBC episode. The major one is Rona Fairhead.
Rona is now like Baroness.
She is the international trade minister in the cabinet, and she was given a lifetime peerage.
Yeah.
So less than a year after basically being fucking kicked out from being the head of the BBC Trust, she has been given a lifetime peerage and made international trade minister. What would international trade minister, would that mean that she was in some way involved in this IPO with Saudi Aramco?
So the weird scenario, as an international trade minister, she gets to decide things like the loans and the tallies paid by the businesses that are dealing with the UK. So, for example,
tariffs.
That's not tallies. It's a random, partially offensive word. The tariffs and the loans that are going to be paid. So, say for example,
duties, customs.
Yeah. So, say for example, like what's actually happened, Saudi have been given a massive levy that they're allowed to work between, where they're allowed to like borrow money and not pay back money. Now she actually changed it specifically. Again, we can produce sources or whatever, but for this episode, we're probably not going in the grand scheme of things unless somebody really, really wants to. Are we?
I thought we would stick a few links up.
I will stick up a few links in, but anyway, we can stick up stuff to do with Rona. But essentially, she's now the person who's doing the brokering of the deal.
The links are our thing, Paul. They're what sets us apart from the other podcasts.
I know,
we prove the things we say.
I know, but most of this has just been us talking about stuff that we've already said, adding in a little bit, and a bit of banter back and forth and whatnot. Today, this is
that's when I get to have fun by like putting in just like videos of Conor McGregor getting knocked out before Floyd Mayweather and shit.
Your face photoshopped in. Just like mind that time.
Well, by that time Jerry had black arms.
So they call you black arms out in the rings. So anyway, she's brokering the deals. Is what she actually comes down to.
She's got put in there. There's also, you may or may not remember some of the characters, we'll call them, from the HSBC episode. But there's a lassie called Katya Hall, who we didn't mention, who has now...
So it's going to be really, really fucking difficult for you to remember that character.
Hod the bus though, Paul. She was head of public affairs at HSBC, and she recently left to join a company called CMI, who essentially are mentors for people who work on boards, business boards all over the UK. And if you look at their advisory team, it's quite interesting because it has people like Sir Roger Carr, who we did mention in the episode, who was chairman of BAE Systems.
Jimmy Carr's dad?
He was on the board. No. He was on, that's Alan Carr. No, that's not Alan Carr.
Alan Carr's Jimmy Carr's dad. You heard it here first. It's true as fuck news.
But Alan Carr, the shite comedian of the chat show, his actual dad is
Jimmy
Chief
Carr.
Scout at Newcastle United. I think I said that in the episode.
That's how you can mix those two up. The jobs are so similar.
So Roger Carr, he also was at HSBC and Centrica and the Bank of England and Cadbury and the president of the Confederation of British Industry. He is involved in CMI. You have Katya Hall is now there. The void that she left when she left HSBC was filled by our friend Sherard Cowper-Coles, who was the ex-British ambassador to Sherard to Saudi Arabia, who was given the job as chief executive at British Airways after he got British Airways off with a big court case where they were going to get done for bribery by the US. So
Sherrod will never be a name. Like it's never like there's no catching on. That's a misspelt Gerald.
It's trunk Gerald.
Gerald. I've seen you being Gerald.
I've heard me being called Gerald. So yeah, so that was the HSBC episode, which brings us on to the drugs episode,
which was the previous episode. HSBC, they love getting involved in punting drugs.
Oh well, they certainly love getting involved in laundering drug money because that was the major crux of the episode.
So imagine we had spoken in an episode about HSBC in South America. Now, off the top of your head, do you know a South American gang that probably need their money laundered?
The Sinaloa cartel of Mexico. Classic
fellows. Now, I remember that from my days running with the cartels, the HSBC had a window.
They had boxes specifically
designed
made
for window holes.
For their window holes by the Sinaloa cartel so that they could get the maximum amount of money in locked boxes through the HSBC teller windows in Mexico. The Sinaloa cartel are now responsible for providing 80% of fentanyl in New York, as aided and abetted by HSBC, allegedly at some point in the past. So fentanyl is this new opioid. I say new, it's synthetic essentially, so it's not actual heroin. You can make it in a lab basically, so it's a cheap alternative which can be made in labs and is being made in labs in China and Mexico, and it's extremely strong. It's
actually does a lot of things. It's very addictive.
Extremely addictive.
Very addictive, and also quite likely to kill you.
It's responsible for the opioid deaths in America drastically rising, and Donald Trump in October declared a public health emergency because of this.
Now remember, when we spoke about the episode on drugs, I mean, one of the things that we discussed was that in Florida, there was that's where people were going at the present moment for over-the-counter opioids. I mean, essentially, the whole hillbilly heroin scenario that's happened in America, which is a term that we've no way coined, but essentially it's a thing that's used to describe...
Oxycontin, was
it? Yeah, pretty much. But any of the opioid derivatives that can be bought over the counter at the present moment in America, and a lot of them were coming from Florida. Now, they were already in this scenario. Essentially what you had and what you were having in America was you had like the upper, lower class and the middle class now all addicted to heroin, but not actually heroin, but essentially opioids. And opioids are addictive as fuck.
And they were being prescribed to people.
Yeah, but and then also there was
because it was a money maker. It's a money maker. This is the problem you have when you have private healthcare.
Yes, but and then one of the problems is because they were being sold to people, but because they were so easily prescribed to people, and because the doctors who were prescribing them were possibly taking backhanders for prescribing that specific brand or that instead of a generic type or something different. In Florida, they reckon something similar to like 80% or 70% of all the opiates that were going out to America were getting purchased in Florida and getting shipped out. Like people were driving across state to go and buy it because they could buy it in Florida. Old people who have got cancer, who are just waiting to die, are getting prescribed it, selling the prescriptions to, there's a word for the type of person, but essentially a drug dealer, but there's a specific word for this type of drug dealer, who then goes and picks up the prescription, and then shifts it on. Now, you've got these people who are already addicted to opiates. You're then bringing in synthetic opiates to the US, so you've now got stronger opiates available to you. Cheap, stronger opiates that are more addictive, that give you a stronger high. Now,
but are also much more lethal.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Well, for example, fentanyl deaths have increased by 540% nationally over the last 3 years in the US. It's a major killer, and anecdotally, this article that I was reading was saying that even like the most hardened, like pro fucking heroin users are scared of this shit.
I don't really want to make light of this, but the idea of being a pro heroin user is
You know, just the guys who've been doing it for fucking years, man.
guy with like a Nike tourniquet.
Nike tourniquet.
Yeah, like sponsorship deals for like. No, we're not doing jokes of professional heroin addicts. We're allowed to we're allowed to do rape jokes and cholera jokes and all sorts of other nonsense, but we're not doing pro heroin addicts. That's dark.
So over 4 days last month, and this article was written in November, I believe. No, tell a lie. It was fucking. This is only like 2 weeks old. This article, right? So it was saying.
So we're on the ball again.
On the ball again. Again, it's saying 80% was produced by Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. You also have the DEA seized 40 kilograms of fentanyl from Dominican traffickers, all destined for Philadelphia, which, in the words of this DEA agent, is, quote, an insane amount if you calculate that each kilo yields 330,000 doses. So this is...
What?
Yes. This is fucking big business and big fucking money, like, and the difference is you don't need to grow this shit in poppies in Afghanistan. This stuff can be made anywhere. Yeah.
So this. So we have to start. Looking and seriously addressing the fact that America has a massive opioid problem that's just been ignored by the media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not because I'm reading this article, but it's only recently coming to the fore. Do you want to hear just a very brief snippet about the economics of fentanyl distribution, because it's fucking interesting shit.
I can't wait. Go.
So, the economics of fentanyl trafficking are straightforward. The chemicals needed to produce a kilo cost no more than $5,000, and there is no need to wait for the poppy harvest. At $55,000 to $60,000 per kilo delivered, fentanyl is about the same price as heroin, but yields far more once it is cut and packaged for the street. So you can make a kilo for $5,000, sell it for 60, and then the guys are fucking cutting it and selling it on for more. I gotta go, Paul.
It's, the boy got a science lab for his Christmas.
No, but that's fucking insane.
Man, this is like a fucking... Honestly, it's like the opening sequence for a fucking Robocop movie for the 80s or something, do you know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely crazy.
Like, when you read the anecdotes of the people here who are overdosing and the communities that are growing up round about it, like Philadelphia is the sort of seems to be the big urban centre in the US that's got a real problem with it right now, but what they're saying is that it's also the kind of opioid epidemic in the US has been a largely rural scenario, which is why it's
Hellbilly crack.
been coined
Hellbilly heroin.
yeah. But this is bringing it into the inner cities, and obviously that makes it a lot worse because...
Well, the last time they had a big drug outbreak in the inner cities, it was crack and shit went bad for about 10 years.
Ricky Ross done all right at it.
Yeah, I mean, a few did. A few done okay at it.
CIA and that.
Aye. Contra.
Allegedly. So yeah, that's one of the negative things which have came to light.
So let's look at
since
something...
the drug episode. But
let's look at something positive. So, say for example, your country was doing well. You were...
Can't imagine what that would be like.
No, but I'm going to paint a picture for you. Say your country's doing well. Say your people are some of the happiest people in the world. Say your crime's low. Say your working week is shorter than most other people's. Say that generally everything about the way of life, your finances, the country's wealth, everything about it, the politics and the crime is all as good as it could possibly be.
The people in these countries also seem to be ridiculously better looking than everybody else.
Yes. So we're going... Follow me, Gerard, as we go to Scandinavia. So, in Norway, Norway have decided to adopt what we like to call the
Portuguese solution.
The Portuguese solution sounds dark, though. Like, The Portuguese model, I think.
Portuguese model.
Yeah, don't call it the Portuguese solution. It sounds like
but it involves just like going for your dinner and that when you're on holiday and leaving your wains in the hotel room, doesn't it?
and then lying about it.
Yeah, that's the Portuguese model.
Yeah, and then visiting the Pope and your mates in the government to make sure that you don't get done, and then selling a book called like "If I Did It." I don't think they done
Allegedly.
that last part. I don't know if they done that last part. I think because of the surname, they're allowed to make that joke.
We'll go with that.
So, what the Portuguese model actually is if people aren't getting told you can't take drugs, less people are going to just fucking take drugs.
Well, also decriminalisation. So full decriminalisation of all drugs, and what that means is that the money that would be getting spent on law enforcement is now getting spent on treatment and rehabilitation and actually helping people who obviously have issues, man.
It also means that decriminalisation of possession and use doesn't mean decriminalisation of sale, but it means that the drug dealers are now the focus of the problem, as in
instead of wasting time chasing fucking low level people who are just trying to like get a fucking fix.
Instead of like, I don't know, fucking arresting a massive percentage of your black population for possession of cannabis and putting them in jail to make them work on a dodgy kind of paid for slavery system in the US, for example. Instead of
someone should do an episode about that.
I imagine someone will do an episode about that. So Norway have decided that they're going to adopt the same model, and to be honest, Norway are running out of things to be awesome about. Like, they're just like, you know what, fuck it, people can take drugs now. Like, we've literally gave people, like I said, they've got like a shorter working week and people are getting paid better and they've got a generally better way of life in Norway and they've got lower crime.
Great education, great healthcare system, top of like almost every fucking factor that you can, that is measurable.
I think they're officially the happiest people on earth or some shit like that. Certainly, as all the Scandinavian countries kind of meet the criteria up there. Now, don't get me wrong, they pay a lot of tax, but they also get higher wages, and people have to work. Like, both family members always have to work to be able to pay for things like their house, but they only have to work 4 days a week. So it swings around a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they don't have to pay for kids' education or their healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just saying that, like, yeah, there's easy ways.
No, Paul, fuck you.
There's easy ways you can paint some bad things about it. You can even, if you really want, you can go on YouTube and you can watch a pile of fucktards talk about how there's hundreds of...
All those no-go zones in Malmo.
How there's no-go zones, even though the people in Malmo says there's no
no-go zones. You can go anywhere.
We call it go zones because they can go there, and there's people who live next to the town, and there's people who say I travel there weekly because I like the fucking town.
I go there for like nights out and stuff, and I'm a woman who wanders about there regularly at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm not a hooker, but I don't ever get battered.
We know people who live in like Norway, for example, who say things like, I will happily walk around Oslo and I feel safe all the time. Like, I mean, that's a direct quote.
Well, I think the direct quote was, I feel as safe as you would in most cities.
I think she actually said safer than she does
in
most cities. But yeah, I mean, like, but that's exactly it. I mean, essentially, if you go on YouTube, you will hear that Scandinavia has tons and tons and tons of immigrant-related crime.
Oh yeah, and all of those Islamic terror events that they have.
Well, like, I believe...
Sweden's had like 6 in the last fucking 100 years. And
only 2 were definitely Islam, maybe 3. Were definitely Islam.
I think it was slightly more than that, but we'll post that up.
Yeah. I mean, I think essentially since 2010 there had been 7 attacks, 3 of which were Islamic, 2 of which were hadn't been identified who it was that committed it,
and then some right wing ones,
and then the other 2 were like right wing ones. I think that's right. 3, 2, maybe
3, 2, 2.
That's correct.
7,
that's correct.
Yeah.
I'll just make sure that's what I said. But yeah, so what we're getting there is
and about 3 people have died within all of that,
with literally 2 or 3 seconds.
But there are right wing YouTube commentators out there telling you that Islamic terrorism is rife in Scandinavia.
Rife,
and those people are liars.
Those people have never been to Europe or Scandinavia. There's a video that's been used in evidence in an argument,
and some of them are paedophiles.
there's a video that was used in evidence as an argument with me where 2 people with cameras stood in the street full of immigrants, and then the police told the people they should move on or something bad would happen. And the argument was that's because they're not allowed to be there with cameras. It's like, no, that's because, generally speaking, poor people who might have a perplexity be involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in don't like getting filmed. Don't like getting filmed of a random bearded hipster dudes.
And if that's the case, we have lots of no-go areas in Wishaw.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
Craig Nuke is a no-go area.
To be honest, if that's the case and you're near my house, it's a no-go area because I would rather not be filmed by a stranger when I'm going about doing things.
And I might kick fuck at you.
Maybe I will take your camera off you, not because I want your camera, just because I don't want you to have your camera. Right? But yeah, just what I'm meaning with all this is you will hear that all these things are the case, but if you actually talk to people from the countries, then it's not the case. And do you know why it's not the case? Because they have a really good way of life and they're living well, and they're living so well that they're now just like, you know what? Fuck it, see if you get drugs, you're not a criminal anymore.
And also because they're probably policing their borders to a reasonable extent as well. Like, people talk about... I mean, unfortunately, I don't have the data to hand, okay? But this is something that we should do, even maybe for an article on the website. We should look at all of the terrorist incidents which have happened in the UK in the past year. So you've got the stuff which has happened in London,
Manchester.
Yeah, those are the main ones. All the little kind of ones that have happened.
There was actually two in London. There was Mad Guy in Van, but it was a white guy, so nobody talks about it.
Yeah. So we should look at how many of these people are immigrants from wherever, and how many of them are actually just born in the UK.
There's your boy, Guy, from...
Garvey from Elbow.
No, Guy from down in Bradford that drove up to...
Oh, yeah. Oh, we talked about that.
That's exactly what I was going back to. That was. I mean, that's essentially, although sectarian violence, that's essentially an act of terrorism. I mean, if it was a white guy that happened
Pakistan, wasn't he?
Yeah, they were both in Pakistan. Yeah. But yeah, just it was only because you said immigrant, and it reminded me that in one of the episodes,
one of them was a nice Pakistani, and one of them was one of the bad Pakistanis.
Well, one of them was loved by the community and everyone around him. By community, I mean the white folk that went into his shop and everything.
And the other one got in a taxi and went, I want to go stab somebody.
From Bradford to Glasgow and stabbed the guy. We made jokes about that then. We're probably not going to do that now.
Well, you say that, Paul.
But I've got a joke about a guy called Guy. No, but yeah, getting back to that, we will look into how many people commit how many people commit terrorism in a few of the major countries in Europe, and how many of them are
from that major country in Europe.
Yeah.
And how many of them aren't. And how many of them are immigrants from outside the EU, and how many of them are immigrants from inside the EU.
It sounds like a sexy graph.
Oh. Oh, sorry, that was my sex noise.
Yes, Jerry's terrifying sex noise. So anyway,
if you want to hear that again, call me. No,
don't. Rewinding back to where we were a minute ago. So Norway has now decriminalised. Norway has now decriminalised drugs.
Oh yes, I remember. I remember there was a point to this.
So the reason we were talking about that is you've got two, right? So here's a thought. See, in Portugal and in Norway, people aren't dying of a massive opioid crippling problem. Oh, we'll use Norway as a prime example. In Norway, you don't pay for your medication.
In Norway, I believe, actually, prior to them even bringing this legislation forth, there were only 270 drug deaths in Norway in the entire year anyway, which is quite low.
Norway doesn't really strike me as a place where, like, I mean, Norway's freezing and stuff. I just can't imagine there's that many people, like, heavy getting on it and going out raving on it.
Well, if it's cold and shitty, then maybe you would do it more, though.
I just thought you just banged in a sauna for 6 months of the year.
266 people in 2017 died from drug-related deaths.
I'm pretty certain you're too busy reading to hear what I said there.
What did you say?
I said he's just banging a sauna for 6 months. I just thought that was what happens in Scandinavia.
Maybe.
Sounds sweaty though.
Maybe, but they do bang in the sauna on E.
Doubt it. Sounds
like a pretty good way to overheat your brain.
Sounds like a way to be really dehydrated quickly. I've heard. So anyway, kind of going off that subject, so clear, at no point have I ever banged in a sauna on ecstasy. Just saying.
Portugal has the second. I'm just say the subject.
Let's talk over that.
Yeah, Portugal now has the second lowest rate of drug death in the European Union.
So America's opioid problem has risen by deaths for the one type of drug has risen by like 500% in a year or some shit.
540%, and Donald Trump has declared it a national emergency.
And in Norway and Portugal, no cunts dying of drugs, and you can just be decriminalised for drugs.
Well, it's not no cunt, but they're doing better.
No cunt in the grand scheme of the world. Like, I mean, no cunt in the grand scheme of like in terms of percentage, you're talking about 0.00. You know what I mean? Like
you're talking a very low percentage in Norway, and it's still considered too high for them to go on as they're going on. So they have chosen to spend more money in rehabilitation because scientifically it's been proven to work elsewhere. Because Portugal started it in 2003. They've been doing it for 15 years at this point, and it's working.
It's like, while research is showing that successful drug policies,
law enforcement should be decreased.
There's a word missing from that. While research shows that successful drug policies should be increased. That's what I was looking for.
Law enforcement decreased while abolishing mandatory minimum sentences.
That's what they say.
Utilizing drugs to pay for secret wars around the world.
I've just realised that entire song
sounds like George Formby.
Also covers
utilizing drugs to pay for secret wars around the world.
Actually, also covers about 40 episodes.
Drugs are now your global policy. Now you police the globe.
Is that song actually about the episodes that we were going to record in order?
What, but in the past?
Aye.
Well, that would be fucking mental, Paul.
It would be. Anyway, so we've covered drugs. We've covered HSBC. We've covered Cambridge Analytica. We've covered immigration. We've covered Brexit. We've covered...
There's only one episode yet to cover, Paul.
Which is?
Gun control. Now, I don't know if you remember, but social media got a bit crazy when we talked about the old gun control.
So, for those who don't use our Facebook, if you want to see what could only be described as absolute unbridled fucking madness, you should go on and look at our post that didn't say anything positive or negative about gun control. The advert...
I think the exact words were, some people say that we need more gun control to sort this out, while others say that further gun control would cause more crime.
And literally thousands of Americans
just went, don't take out guns!
You shouldn't take out guns, it's protected by the Second Amendment, you're a libtard snowflake. Wow, none of those things. Like, I mean, in the episode, we don't even say you should take the guns off everyone. In fact, we say that it's like, there's a possibility that there's an argument to say...
Don't do that.
No, don't do that, because the numbers kind of show it. Just have better policy in place to make sure that people who are mentally ill can't get a hold of guns, and there's a more rigorous policing put in place to make sure that people who do and don't have guns should and shouldn't have guns, and like maybe don't let people buy like fucking high-powered assault rifles if there's no real justification to have them, but still let them have pistols and stuff like that. But generally, we looked at it from a way where we didn't say take off guns, but fuck me, did America tell us that we decided...
America told us we were wrong.
We were wrong for thinking the same thing as the people who were posting telling us we were wrong. Like people saying, you shouldn't take out guns, this is a mental health problem. And we're like, I agree. And they're like, shut up, you libtard. And it's like, I don't even know how to deal with this. Like, me and Jerry genuinely, so this is complete disclosure, me and Jerry got to the point in that post where we were just like, we had to take turns about on a day. Like, as in, Jerry had to do a day and then take an entire day off, whereas I had to do a day and then I had to take an entire day off, and Jerry would do it again because it was so difficult to be talking to people who had no concept of the episode, had no concept of what we spoke about, had no concept of what we were doing, but had every concept that we were probably libtard snowflakes.
I would even just be away from the computer for an hour while people were writing utter bile and rage towards us on Facebook, and my eyes would start bleeding.
I mean, like there was
Start,
times
guys, are my eyes bleeding?
I was having to phone Jerry throughout the day for like counselling sessions, just like I can't, like not even able to form sentences anymore. Just it was fucking brutal.
So yeah, it turns out, I mean, who knew? But Americans can be quite precious about guns.
Now, the weird thing that we didn't overly touch on in the grand scheme of things of the episode was we get that guns are protected by the Second Amendment. But there is an argument to say that the Second Amendment was written in a different time by people who didn't really know anything about mental health issues or the fact that lots of Americans would intend to own high-powered assault rifles.
Well, I would suggest that the authors of the original Constitution would be horrified to see the level of gun violence which has been carried out in their name.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely, definitely.
But
I'd say, I mean, essentially we're talking about some
I
of the...
can't possibly know that.
You were essentially talking about, at the time, some of the most forward-thinking, scientific, liberal-minded people on earth.
Yeah, 100%. Like, those guys are fucking ahead of their time massively, and geniuses. Like
actual geniuses.
Yeah,
like
they were stable geniuses of a very genuine fucking level.
Like, I mean, the reason that the founding fathers got together was because they were a group of incredibly clever cunts who were all doing incredibly clever things, and they all got together and they were like, we can do this better using our big brains.
Yeah, we don't want this tyrannical government to keep imposing their horrific laws upon us and taking the taxes from us.
And do you know what they were that I've already said? They were liberal, right? This is something that I would like Americans to understand. See the founding fathers? They were liberal-minded people. The reason that you have America, the reason that it exists, was because they wanted to better the lives of the people.
And also, they were educated. They were people who read. They were people who studied. They were people who used evidence to fucking back up their arguments.
Do you know how they read? Because they were the people who were fucking actually printing the fucking books, man. Like,
yeah, man, you've got like Benjamin Franklin, who was involved in fucking developing electricity, fucking flying kites up and fucking getting hit.
Printing press and stuff like that. It was like one of the first people running a printing press in the continental United States of America.
George Washington was smoking fucking pot. Fucking Thomas Jefferson was shagging slaves. You know, they were fucking forward thinking.
they were just like, let's smoke weed, bang slaves, and fucking print pornos.
That might not
Citation
even
needed.
have the right people there. I think I do, though. I think
No. George Washington was the first president.
Yeah. Really?
I'm just throwing that out there, just in case you're unsure. He was the only president that's listed that's not affiliated to a party either.
Is that right?
Aye.
He was just a dude.
Well, because at that point they didn't have fucking a mad, weird fucking two-party system thing sorted out that they could just argue about for the rest of their fucking life. But he's the only president that's listed that's not affiliated to a party. Because
he was an independent candidate.
It was also the only candidate. It was a really easy first presidential election. You're president.
Anyway, this brings us on to gun control, right?
Yeah.
So
since our episode, has anyone mental shot someone?
Yes, they have.
Of course they have.
Sorry, that was just such a brilliantly phrased question. So, I mean, yeah, Paul, I haven't looked into the exact numbers of people who have shot people, but I know that in excess of 340 mass shootings occurred in the US last year, which is defined by 4 or more people were shot at once. Yes. But I know that the last one to happen in the US happened minutes prior to New Year's Eve or 2018 occurring. And
Hogmanay.
It was a 6. Yeah, that's Hogmanay. That's what they call it in America.
That's what we call it in Scotland.
I know it is. I know.
I'm just telling you, Americans. That's what we call it in Scotland.
I know.
There's lots of people in Washington that listen to us. Or did listen to us before our gun control episode. Like, I'm not 100% sure they listen to us now.
So, there was an autistic schoolboy who shot his mother and father and his sister and a 70-year-old friend of the family, 70-year-old friend of the family, minutes before New Year 2017, a laddie called Colgogi, Scott Kologi. He shot Stephen and Linda Kologi, his mum and dad, his 18-year-old sister Brittany, and 70-year-old Mary Schultz. He decided not to kill his brother and grandfather for whatever reason. I don't know.
Was it his gun?
No. And he was severely autistic.
Was he weapon trained?
No.
Was the gun owned by a family member?
Yes.
Was the gun in a safely locked away cabinet?
Doesn't appear to have been.
Right, so what we're saying here is that because of a episode, because of an act of passion, a relatively young person had access to a firearm and was able to use it in the spur of a moment and murder like 4 people.
Yeah, but I mean, he was probably the first autistic boy to have done something like that in the past couple of years.
I bet if he was brown, he'd have been a terrorist, because that's what the news reports do. Because one of those people wasn't a family member. I mean, I'm just saying.
It's obviously fucking horrifically tragic.
I mean, I'm not even trying to particularly joke about this, because this proves the point that we try to make fucking time and time again. Like, it's difficult because obviously the people died, but the issue here is that probably the father
had a gun,
and because of that, now the father is dead. And you can say that guns don't kill people, and you can say that people kill people, and you can say that it's a mental health problem, and all those things are technically true. But see, if there wasn't a gun, he wouldn't have shot them. That's it.
There's loads of autistic people in the UK that never shoot people.
It's like stabbings, right? See, if there wasn't a gun, the argument that always comes up, and we've seen it come up, is people would just stab people. Do you know what? They wouldn't.
Well, they might.
Right,
you can only stab one person at once.
Some people will stab, but as we spoke about in the episode, stabbing is very, very, very different.
It's intense and personal.
People, as you spoke about in the episode, guys who were fighting in the Second World War, in the First World War,
who were trained killers, weren't able to stab each other.
They would shoot each other until they were at point blank range with each other, and then refused to stab each other and walked away, because stabbing someone is fucking dark. Shooting someone at a distance in an act of passion. And see, to be honest, this is the other thing that nobody talks about. That see, if a fucking 10-year-old, 15-year-old, see a fucking 20-year-old comes at me with a knife, I've got the opportunity to punch his cunt in. See, if they come with a gun, I'm probably dead, because they can shoot me before I can punch their cunt in. That's it. And a
35-year-old man, on average, is much stronger than a teenager.
Alright. I mean, you don't even need to be able to batter them. You can prevent them from stabbing you. But preventing someone who is at shooting distance, the distance between me and Jerry right now, if Jerry had a knife and I had a gun, I could definitely shoot him. He definitely couldn't stab me. Jerry's now going to make some weird claim that he could stab me.
I'm not.
But that's just how it is.
Just that I want to.
That's what I'm thinking about it. But I mean, at that distance, that's just how it is. But if only one of us had a knife here, we would have to scramble and fight for the knife. It's just how it is. That's people. The reason that in countries that don't have guns, people aren't getting fucking stabbed all over the place is because that's not how the world works.
See, the thing about a knife that you're going to stab somebody with is you want it to be really sharp.
When you're as if you were fighting Floyd Mayweather.
No. Do you know what else you want to be really sharp?
Your wits.
Razor blades. And that brings us... And that brings us to our other sponsor, Cornerstone. Cornerstone will get
one of the most
delivered.
tasteless segues that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Cornerstone will deliver you top of the range blades to your home, along with a chrome ergonomic handle with your initials carved in
This
it.
is a genuine advert.
You could even just get him to carve in stab cunts.
No, you can't. It's 3 letters.
All right. SC.
Exclamation mark. Right, but taken away from the stab cunts, don't get that. Right. Cornerstone, they'll send you shaving cream, they'll send you shaving balm, they'll send you a razor blade, I think 3 razor blades and the handle. We've got
and lots of lovely products to whap all over your face.
Yeah, you can set it for, I shave sometimes, I shave all the time, I shave once a year, and then they'll send you that many boxes. We've got a drop page that we will put at the bottom of our episode.
But it's Fake News 10.
Yeah, Fake News 10, so it's cornerstone.com/fake news 10.
I believe so.
And you can go in there and you can order through us and you get like a box for a tenner.
You get a tenner off.
I knew it was something to do with a tenner. It's been a long time since we've done one of the Cornerstone adverts. And to be honest, I'm kind of still lost on the worst
I think Cornerstone are going to love this.
The worst segue that I think has ever existed in anything. But at the same time, if ever people were paying attention to an advert, it's right now.
I think it was the best segue of all time.
It's certainly a segue.
That's the most I've seen you laugh in a while.
That was the most I've laughed in a while because I thought it was cold and dead inside. That's reawoken me. So, with that being said, another thing is, just while I remember, because this is a rundown of all the episodes, for doing this I had to listen back to all our episodes. 2 things have came about. Our sound quality in the way that we do our episodes, in my opinion, is much better than it was when we started.
Apart from maybe this one.
No,
the sound quality.
The way that it's been put together is just abysmal. But the thing is,
I've enjoyed this more than I've enjoyed recording episodes in a while.
Because some of the episodes, so like because we're shooting shit here or whatever, right? Me and Jerry put a lot of effort into all our episodes. You can probably sometimes tell we do a lot of research. We've got lots of sources. We read lots of shit. See, when you're doing something in gun control, do you know what you're doing? See, for 3 or 4 weeks, you're reading statistics. Tons and tons and tons of fucking statistics.
Sometimes that can suck the fun out of it.
Statistics about deaths of cunts, about fucking suicides, about how many people died and what race they were, about, you know what I mean? It's shit, right? For us to compile the information, that can be shit. And like I said, we've chosen to do this, and I'm not taking it away because I enjoy doing the podcast. But this isn't like it's no fucking fun and games by any manner of means. Like doing the episode in North Korea that we've just released, we had to put it off twice because Jerry was trapped in an oil rig and I was blind in one eye. It's not even conjecture. That's not like.
And that was just from researching.
Me, it was masturbation. It was me wanking it.
Yeah, I mean researching.
That's the air quotes. That wasn't as sexy as mine. No, just no yet. So I mean, we do put a lot of effort in, but that also means that sometimes when we go to record the episode, like, do you know what's no fun? Talking about kids dying of cholera. It's really difficult to really get wound up about it. You can get angry about it, and you can have the desire to bring the information to you guys, but you don't like. It's no fun.
And our entire ethos, right, our entire reason for doing this, I think I speak for Paul when I say this, is that we actually do give a fuck. We do. We care about the state of the world as we live in it. We both have kids. I think we both look at them sometimes and think, what kind of fucking world have we brought these fucking young humans into, man? It's a dark, bleak looking place. And we are all, I think we all feel very powerless at times. You know, we all feel that we're not capable of making any real difference to the way that things run, or the way that things happen, or how politicians interact, how big business interacts with people. And one of the major driving forces behind us doing this podcast is to try and feel like we are hopefully making some kind of fucking very, very, very tiny difference to the world, and B, trying to communicate with other like-minded people out there, trying to reach out to try and create some kind of fucking movement towards a better fucking world for everybody. And I think one way that you can do that is by making sure that information is available to people. And we don't get it fucking right all the time. We are fallible and human and fucking, shite at stuff in the way that everybody else is. But that's why we need all of you so fucking much, man. We all need to be fucking together in this.
Fuck, man, that get intense, but that's exactly it. I mean, like, see you guys interacting with us on our Facebook, see you guys on the Discord, and yeah, we say that, we would like donations from Patreon. That just keeps us going. But do you know what we like? We like the people who are on Discord. They bring us sources, they bring us information. We talk through the things that we're going to be doing in episodes. We talk in private messages, we talk in the group chats, we do all that kind of stuff, and it helps us, it makes us grow. I mean, if you listen to all our episodes, from episode 1 to episode 9, we got better at doing this. In 2018, we are going to get much fucking better at doing this. We have made friends, and
citation needed.
No, but we are, and we've got friends who are there to help us, and we've got people who are getting involved and who are doing things for us, and it matters a lot to us. So today, this episode was a roundup deliberately without any real studying, apart from the fact that we had to listen to us fucking talking, which, by the way, if you don't have a podcast, is shite. See, having to hear yourself talk to yourself talk to you about things that either you did know or you weirdly now don't know, right? Things that you knew at the time but you don't seem to recall until you tell yourself. Then you get these floods of information back that you wanted to forget because you don't want to know the gun statistics in fucking different states because you get rid of it. But this is like, I don't know, like, we really enjoy doing what we're doing, and this is why we've done this roundup episode. This is why mostly it's just been me and him talking shite for the whole episode, like just talking about what we've learned and talking about what's there. I think we're going to try and every now and then have a bit more laid back episodes because we know that the gun. I mean, Blake, one of our patrons, says to us, he's an engineer. He is also a gun owner, and he had real problems when he was listening to the gun control episode. He said it in a joking way, but the whole point he was trying to get to was like, all we were doing was spewing numbers and facts, and he is a person who deals every day in his life with numbers and facts. We get that that's not easy. Just like the HSB stuff might seem like a fucking mad conspiracy, and talking about immigration is never going to be fun. It's going to fucking polarise people. Like, and that was our first episode. We decided for some other fucking reason that we were going to jump in with an episode about immigration when we didn't even have a fucking theme tune. And on the note of a theme tune while we're writing stuff out, like, best
theme tune ever. I love our theme tune.
Podcast theme tune ever. And we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Kev. Kev is fucking great. He is genuinely one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Kev O'Malley, and you can find him on SoundCloud. The link is always on our links for every single episode. It's the first link up there is our theme tune. He's called Great in Small Doses, and you can find him on SoundCloud, and he's amazing. And I believe that we are going to put the theme tune up on our Spotify so that it's freely available for anyone to listen to whenever they like.
Yeah, I mean, Kev wants it. Kev was talking about putting it up on Spotify himself, but another thing that you may or may not know, see, trying to get on Spotify, that's an absolute pain in the cunt as well. Like, it's just a difficult process to get onto it. And now, because we're there, I'm going to put the theme tune on because Kev deserves recognition for it. It's great. He recorded it himself off his own back for us as a favour because he's quite possibly the nicest person that you'd ever meet in your entire life. And just so happens he also goes out with one of our patrons, who is Gene, who was like our first patron as well, which there's a lot to be said about that as well. Do you know what I mean? So
we love you.
We genuinely do. And like, I mean, so like he says, like, this is why we've done this episode. I hope you can tell we had a lot of fun. Like, when I laughed there, that was genuine from the heart laughter. I mean, like, because it kind of made me feel bad at the same time because it's no the segue that they want. They don't want to be associated with knife crime. That's no what they wanted at all. Hopefully we're going to have a couple of other sponsors coming into the new year. We are trying. It's not always easy.
We also had a wee bit of good news the other day, in that we've been asked provisionally to talk at the Edinburgh Skeptics Society at some point in the next couple of months. So when that comes around, if tickets are available for people, then we'll let you guys know. And also there's a chance that may lead to us doing doing something else with them in the future. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that.
Hopefully for us that's a big deal, because as you probably imagine, we live quite close to Edinburgh and we like Skeptics. So the fact that it's Edinburgh Skeptics, I mean, to me they're a big deal, certainly in our area. And then I'm just kicking the mic stand and that. And then on top of that as well, there's also a couple of podcasts and stuff that we're talking to now at the moment as well, and we've got some stuff that hopefully we're going to be able to talk about soon. And it's just a sign of things getting more traction and things getting there. Like I said, this year that we came into was so bigger. I mean, we went into this because we wanted to do a podcast, because we wanted to do stuff. Me and Jerry have a background as being singers in bands. We used to perform in front of people. We are relatively well educated. We're relatively fortunate enough in our life situation, and we decided we were going to do a podcast. We were going to do it about this subject, and shit grew arms and legs so fucking fast. We went from...
And there's been some negativity at times.
There's been ups and downs.
After the past couple of months, you know, some people who have been with us for the very beginning who have fell by the wayside and stuff, and you know, makes me personally a little bit sad. I would have liked to have had them there the whole way through, but I guess when you have a strong opinion about things, sometimes you're going to clash with people, and that's unfortunate.
And that's kind of just life. I mean, one of the things from experience, see when you're in business with people and stuff like that, and see when you're dealing with friends and stuff, like sometimes you fall out when your ideals get mixed up. But this is just, I mean, but that's part of life. But like I said, every single part of this for the last year has been a proper experience, and I expect 2018 to be even more an experience. As a bit of a side note, as Jerry had already mentioned, I'm going to be starting a new project in about a month's time. It's going to be on cooking. I mean, that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be on YouTube. And I'll plug it at some point when it's actually recorded, but that's an entirely off-subject thing. There's probably another couple of things that will come in the new year if we get a chance and if we get, you know, enough traction behind some stuff. But generally speaking, our main focus is going to be this. It's always going to be this, because to be honest, it takes like 3 weeks and needless amounts of effort for so little return. I mean, like, you would not believe. Like, we've got a few thousand people or whatever that are listening to us, and that's great. I mean, that's great, and we love the fact that you do.
It is great.
It is genuinely great. But I can't begin to stress, because we don't interact with you. I know you are listening. That's the only reason that we're still doing this, because we know there's people listening. Do you know what I mean? We know that people want to hear us. Like, if tomorrow the numbers were at 0, we'd probably just stop.
But come and talk to us. Come and follow us on Facebook. Come and follow us on Twitter. Come and send us a wee message here and there. You know, we don't need you to donate to the Patreon or whatever if you can't afford to, or if you don't want to. But interact with us. It would be great. And please, as I ask every month, write us a wee review on iTunes, because it makes a massive difference to how we show up on searches.
Yeah, and just share us out. Share us out to people. Like, people don't know us. You know what's weird? You're listening to a podcast. Loads of people don't listen to podcasts. That to me is fucking mental, because I listen to tons of podcasts. I find it strange that people don't listen to podcasts, and I try and convert people to listen to podcasts, because
it's such a great medium.
I mean, yeah, I don't watch TV anymore. I don't particularly trust news in the grand scheme of things. Like, I use it for studying, and that's about it. I watch Netflix and I watch Amazon Prime and stuff, the same as probably most of you out there. But if I'm listening to stuff, if I'm in the car, if I'm not using Spotify, I'm listening to podcasts. And I listen to a whole shitload, and weirdly people don't. And like Jerry said, we're trying to bring information that we get to find, and we've got time to look into and research. And I know it's a pain in the cunt. And just so happens, because of the certain mindset that we've got, sometimes some people don't want to look at graphs and stats and talk about it the same way me and Jerry always have done our entire life. So just by chance, we're fortunate to like that. So if you can, share us with people, let people hear us, and let people see what they think. You may be surprised, they might like us. And see if they don't like us, it might give you something to argue about. You know what's great? Argue with your mates. It's quality. Me and Jerry probably wouldn't be doing this if we didn't argue for tons of shit for fucking ages.
We're lucky that where we grew up just has loads of people who are very opinionated and who are into politics for, you know, whatever reason, because of the place, the demographics and stuff.
Because of where we are.
So all of the people in Wishy who we chat to about politics and stuff, and Campbell and JJ and all that, like, you know who you are. We appreciate all that massively because it makes us who we are and it keeps us on our toes. Even the likes of fucking Mark Bell.
Ah, man, absolutely. Like, I can't begin to stress having people there that are willing to either challenge us, talk to us, bring us information, or tell us that we're wrong, or tell us that the episode wasn't as good as the last episode because of X. All that stuff matters to us. So, like, the fact that Mark will argue with us on Facebook, and if you're on our Facebook, you'll have seen him argue with us, and that's fine, do you know what I mean?
But
Because
I would like if he would speak to us in real life too.
But anyway, I think that's probably us. Yeah?
Peace out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much.